Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast. I am your host, Alex Jones, and this week I'm joined by Jamie and Chris. We're going to be talking about some lovely video game news, some adjacent news, and some downright bullshit as we do every week. Expect hot takes and trash opinions. We are not just on YouTube, if that's where you're watching us, or we're not just on podcasting platforms, if that's where you're listening to us. We are all over the webs, and we're also on Paisley Radio. You can go check us out, paisleyradio.com, Thursdays, 10 p.m, repeating on Mondays at 10 p.m. We're everywhere. We're ubiquitous. I love that word. Whoa. How the hell are you boys doing this week?
Good. You know what I loved about that intro?
What's that?
It's what's colloquially known in the industry as the rug sweep.
What, just pull it out quickly, just get it
just
done.
getting everything fucking out of the way. I love it.
I was going to say, someone's really keen on getting an early night tonight. Jonesy's fucking rattling through this shit.
Do you know what it is? I want to get it all out there and start talking before people manage to click the stop playing button before they move on to the next podcast, which is showing up on their little list.
And I guess, like, disclosure, before we recorded this, we're probably a little bit later recording it usually than we are, because we recorded a nice little something for the patrons.
We did. There's some extra content going to be going up there. There's lots of other content already up there. If you're not a Patreon already, maybe head over to patreon.com/supershow and you can check out that behind the scenes content, some sort of pilots that we had made back in the day that never went live. Some I'm trying to think what else. We've got Known Murderer. We've got a couple of spoilerific podcasts as well. So get yourself
and hopefully another spoiler cast coming soon. If my weekend pans out the way I want it.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We mentioned it in the previous thing. But yeah.
The most timely spoiler cast that we've potentially ever made. Last of Us 2, eat your heart out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I should probably set everyone up because this is going to be a little bit of a different show. For people who caught the show last week, we were going to do a run through of all the games. Well, hold on, not all the games. I apologise. The games that we give a shit about that are coming out in 2022. There are quite a few of them, so we sort of tried to narrow the list down a bit. But we only managed to make it part way through. So that was part 1 last week. If you want to go back and have a listen to that and hear our thoughts on Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, Dying Light 2, and the Untitled Breath of the Wild sequel, then you can go check out last week's show. So this will be part 2 of the games coming out in 2022. But before we talk about that, we will talk about Sony buying Bungie. So don't disappear just yet if you're thinking, I don't really give a toss about these guys' opinions of games coming out in 2022. Stick around.
Hey, that's what they're here for, baby.
Yeah. You know, hang on. Just listen a little bit longer. You might be excited about something.
Hold on, Jonesy. You got to say, you could do it like an old man, though. Okay, you got to go. Stay a while and listen.
I'm not going to do better than that, mate. That was cracking.
Oh, come on, give it a shot.
No.
Well, Jamie, can I interest you in some decade?
Stay a while and listen.
that was like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises.
Old Bane. I'm Old Bane.
No one.
Perhaps she was wondering why you would stay a while and listen.
Favorite Bane line? What is your favorite Bane line?
No one cared who I was until I stayed a while and listened.
Can we just do a whole? How great would this be if we did a whole podcast where we just all gave that shitty impression?
It's the whistle that I want to be able to do.
The whistle.
What was the whistle?
I can't even do it. Like where the old people talk and they go like, "Hey, Sonny," but they do that.
Because their breath goes through their dentures.
Yes,
is that what it is? It's actually like a denture whistle.
Yes, that's what it is.
I
could kind of do it because I've got 2 fake front teeth. Did you know that?
Jesus, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
You guys did.
Maybe I don't think we've talked about it before for sure, but we've already covered the fact that I never keep anything in my brain for more than about 2 months, and I just
This is true. Yeah, two fake front teeth, titanium screws, ice skating accident. There you go.
Ice skating. That was. Oh, was it that they were dug in the ice?
Yeah,
and
one was
they were still in the ice.
Yeah, and then like some kid came. So I went to the. Okay, so I went ice skating.
I shouldn't have said that. Now it makes my teeth hurt.
Oh, okay. Let me lay it out for you. Okay, just give you some flavor. So I'll go ice skating, And this was a week after I just crashed my brother's car while learning to drive. So that was great. I didn't it just lightly bumped into a tree and cracked the radiator. Okay, not a big deal, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so I was feeling pretty shitty about myself, and my good friends were like, "Hey, let's go ice skating, get your mind over it." I like quality. I like ice skating. Go ice skating. And this one guy, Richard, Asian dude, and he's like fucking doing circles around all of us, and I'm getting like really fucking annoyed now. Like, this guy's too big for his boots, right? So I think to myself, as he skates around again, I'll push the dude. Yeah, just give him a little like tap. Or fucking karma, because he was so fucking fast. I went to push him and he sped off, and I didn't. And you know when you like push air,
yeah.
And I got off balance, and then I started like falling forward, tried to course correct, and then went backwards. Started falling backwards. It's like I'm gonna hit the back of my head, and I'm gonna die. So my genius plan: swivel my body to turn around so that I'm falling forwards, if that makes sense, but lift my hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a meerkat.
Yeah, no, like lift my hands in front of my face so that like I fall on my arms and my forearms.
Catch yourself. That's a common thing that people do when they
Exactly. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, my spatial awareness was not going on that day, and as I swiveled my body, the ground was already there, and I had no time to lift up my arms. So just face first into the ice.
So what I love about this is it took you about 5 minutes to hit the deck because you had time to go through all these options in your head.
This is like,
shall I land? No, I will swivel. Shall I swivel with hands? I will not use hands. I will use face to catch.
No, but it's like that instinct, right? Like that, like I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to go, and it's like.
I'm just imagining the fight scenes from the Sherlock Holmes movie where time slows right down. And he's like doing all the moves, and then Chris, when he goes back to regular, full speed, he just immediately hits the floor and doesn't have time.
That's exactly what it is. It's like turn around, discombobulate, blah blah blah.
But then, discombobulate.
Yeah.
And then what it reminds me of is that shorts Call of Duty shorts channel where the guy's like. I turn around. I see a guy holding an MP5, a silenced MP5 with this scope on the top. It takes exactly 2.3 seconds to cover the ground between me and him. I've only got a knife. He's got this. I know that his shoot angle. And it runs through all these things about how he's going to close the distance and kill the guy. It's like IQ like 3,000. And then when it actually plays, he just dies. He just gets shot immediately and dies.
I mean, that's effectively what happened. Yeah. So I fell, hit the ice with my face, and my two front teeth shot out through my lip. So like parts of my lip, like a kitty cat. And they picked me up off the ice, and they had to get everyone off the ice because it was like a pool of blood like on the ice rink. And then they took me to the first aid place. And then as we're in the first aid place, like off in the corner, like
Hold
this
on.
kid.
Please tell me, before you get that bit, please tell me the smarmy bastard mate who was doing all the spins just right before everyone got cleared off just skated through the blood.
That would be really funny, yeah. And wrote his name in the blood, like Richard, bitch. No, so listen. So we get to the first aid little unit there, and this kid comes in, and we're like, "What's this fucking kid doing here?" And he comes. So let me preface. I was like 18 years old probably when this happened, and this kid must have been like 12. And he comes in, he goes, he puts his hand out, and he goes, "I've got your tooth." Oh. And he had one of my teeth, like the root and everything.
Put it back
like it was,
right?
Well,
yeah, you can, yeah.
So back in the day, like I used to be an avid viewer of the Discovery Channel before Discovery Channel was just like Ice Road Truckers and Alien fucking Explorers or whatever. When it was actually like stuff that you're interested in. Yeah. And I remember watching a thing saying that like if you want to transport teeth, to put them in milk instead of.
I think I've heard that.
Yeah, because the calcium keeps it alive for longer.
And if you put it in ice, that's a bad idea because it can like kill whatever.
It'll kill it. Yeah, exactly. So I asked them, oh, okay, well, we'll try and reattach it. So get a like a little cup of milk and put it in there. Paramedics took me, blah blah blah. Went back. Had to go to a maxillofacial surgeon. They tried to reinsert that tooth, and that was an 8-month ordeal. It did not work. It did not take. Multiple infections, etc. So I had to take it out. Then clean out the infection. Then put in 2 titanium screws. That was another 8-month recovery. And then after that, put in 2 fake front teeth. So there you go.
Can you unscrew your teeth then?
I can go to a maxillofacial surgeon and he could do it. Yes.
Oh, right. You can't just go. Oh,
no, because it's like cemented in, basically.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
Weird.
there we go.
I did. It wasn't the same as that. But I had a when I was a kid. I went ice skating with a mate of mine, and you know when something bad happens and a crowd forms. So
Yeah.
I was on the arcades, typical for me when I was a kid. So I'm on there playing some sick dog fighting on the old the arcade machine, and a massive crowd has formed and is like moving towards us, and everyone's going like, "Oh my god, this is brutal! Something really bad's happened to some person." And I'm like going, "Oh, amazing! I want to see!" And I managed to see over the top, and it's my mate. And he's just got blood pouring down his face.
Oh shit!
And he hit some girl going the wrong way around the ice rink, and he landed on the floor, and then someone skated into his head.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and you know the studs at the front of the skates that breaks? I think
They're
that
just like
caught him right in the forehead. And it wasn't bad really, but it's just because your forehead really bleeds if you cut it.
I kind of feel that's like an Adam Sandler film where like the shoe is stuck in his head, and it's like
Probably is, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had gross.
wow.
Like
So
say,
games,
blood everywhere.
fellas.
To games. Yes. We're going to keep it pretty light, like I said, on the news this week. We're not even going to do a comment of the week because we want to crack on. First of all, though, we should mention the special folks that actually keep the lights on, keep us coming back, keep this little ship sailing, keep this little train chugging, as it were. I'm talking, of course, about the patrons who support us over at patreon.com/SuperShow. You will notice that there are some names on screen right now of these wonderful individuals who help us out every single week. And I would like to call some of them out now, and I would like to name them. They are Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Helium Joker, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Mark Clancy, and as an absolute geld, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Nathan Pears, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, and the big dogs. They are Brett Z, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Guerrero, Peas Wad, and the Uncaged. I do have a little update as well from the Uncaged because that is, as people will know, has a special name that I will not be saying today because I've already said
What's his name, Alex Jones? I don't know.
I will not
who
be saying it.
you were talking about.
But he sent us a little note which says, this is in reference to his name. Jonesy completely butchered my name in the beginning, but it's gotten better. Chris aced the last name, but the first name was a bit off. And Jamie will be getting a surprise challenge round next week.
Oh, interesting.
Blimey. No pressure then.
And then we also have the percentage correct so far, as the Uncaged
nice.
has said. We've gotten the name. So Jamie, obviously unknown. Me, 50% right. And Chris, 69% with a little cheeky face.
Hell yeah, buddy. Hell yeah. I kind of feel that, like, you know, with the upcoming film, The Batman, and like Paul Dano's The Riddler, I kind of feel like this is the blueprint.
Right, I see. Yeah, for sure.
Right,
Like,
yeah. I get
it's
it.
like, there's a bomb in Gotham. Now, pronounce my name.
Yeah. And instead of leaving question marks everywhere, he just leaves his name and everyone has to try and pronounce it. And every time someone mispronounces his name, another innocent person dies.
Oh, do you know what? I was talking yesterday about like the old school slasher movies and the stupid reasons why they would kill people. Was talking about, like, do you remember Urban Legend?
Yeah.
And like, I Know What You Did Last Summer, obviously, Scream and that. I feel like this would be a great one. What's My Name is the name of the film.
Oh, he's just like really slighted because people can't pronounce his name properly.
Anytime someone says their name wrong, they turn up and murder them. And it's like they try and connect the dots and figure out they got him by the wrong name. To be fair, No One Likes Cockburn would have every right to justifiably come and kill me because how I butchered her name.
But it's
Damn it, Coburn.
Why you're just opening the door to get it wrong again? Like, you didn't need to go there.
I was trying to get it right, to be fair. But yeah,
and do you know how they'd kill you? You know, like if you take a hot dog and you cut it like lengthwise and it just kind of splits open.
I did that today. So yes.
Wow, sexual.
You know where he's going with it, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I wasn't talking about a penis.
You didn't even flinch at the thought of that.
That's because I did it earlier today, and I'm
but
numb
not to a
it.
penis.
Did you know there's a tribe? I can't remember. Where
Get
they
your
are,
hand
who
off my
do
penis.
That. They do that to boys when they reach puberty. They slice it along the urethra and then they mash it with a stone.
Yeah, it's some African tribe. Yeah.
Increases the surface area, to be fair, for her pleasure. It's like that's why they do it at Five Guys, so they can they can get more surface area on the heat and get more char.
Let's move on.
I was thinking about those hot dogs earlier. I really want a chili dog, like a really good chili dog.
I know a place that does an okay chili dog.
I want a really good corn dog. Give me corn dogs any day.
Do you know what? We all three of us should get together soon. We should go to Herman's a German because that is a good place to go for sausage.
Yeah, but you're in and out of there in like half an hour. That's the only problem for a meet.
Let's go get pissed afterwards.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
Well, we do need to kind of do a catch up for sure.
Chicken wings. We'll go to one place for chicken wings, and then we'll go to Herman for a dog, and then we'll go for drinks. There you go.
Herman for a dog.
It's my birthday in like 3 weeks. We can use that as an excuse.
Nice. Let's do it. Let's fucking do it. Let's go.
Excuse. But we will, of course, be catching up then together in real life. But I want to catch up now quickly, and I want to know what you guys have been up to.
Delicious segue. Why don't you start, Alex Jones?
Do you know? Okay, I will start. I'll keep it very brief because this is going to be weird because I'm going to get into the world of the musical.
That is weird.
All right, Evan Hansen.
Not the typical thing I would go for, but it was my birthday at the end of December, and so my wife bought me tickets for her and I to go and see Back to the Future, the musical.
Ooh, nice.
In London at the Adelphi, and went to see it, and it was bloody brilliant. Really,
really genuinely?
enjoyed it. Yeah, fantastic. Like, I'm not into musicals either. Like, I'm not a musical kind of person, but I'm a big Back to the Future fan. So I really wanted to see it. And then I must admit, the first sort of 20 minutes, I was kind of like, oh God, this is going to be awful. Because they were singing. Which, of course, they are as a musical.
Yes.
But I was kind of hoping that I would kind of block out the singing and just enjoy the Back to the Future stuff. But after 20 minutes, I was in. I was so in, it was wicked.
Decent, man. Decent.
Yeah. That's the weird part, especially about a musical adaptation of a film like Back to the Future. It's got all these iconic sort of components and lines and quotes, but like, do I really want them? Do I really need like a version of Doc like singing where we're going? We don't need road. Like, do I need to know what that sounds like in sing-song form?
Or the inverse, like when I watched the film version of Les Mis, and it's like I went to go watch it with my wife.
Why aren't they singing?
No, and I was like, are they seriously going to sing every single word in this fucking movie? She was like,
yes.
And she was like, yeah, it's a fucking musical. I was like, what?
Oh, see, I couldn't do that. Like, I have no interest in that at all. And I was more interested in seeing Back to the Future on the stage, and then the musical part of it, I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, the way they did it was a very good adaptation. They do change some stuff so that it works on stage.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Parts of the story they tweak. But
did they do Johnny Be Good? I mean, that's all you need to know.
Oh, I don't know if I want to say. You might ruin it for people.
Oh,
yeah,
what? Spoiler alert for Back to the Future, the musical.
But what's weird, they don't do Hip to Be Square. Not Hip to Be Square, the other one, Power of Love. They don't do Power of Love at the beginning when his band play for Huey Lewis and the News. Do you remember that scene where they like playing for the bands to play at the prom?
I don't really remember.
So they're looking for bands to play in the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Yeah. And Marty McFly with his band goes up the Pinheads, and they're like, we're the Pinheads, and they start to play the Power of Love. And they like do the first riff, whatever.
Yep.
And then Huey Lewis is actually playing the role of the guy who's watching to pick the bands, and he gets a megaphone. And he's like, "Sorry guys, you're just too loud." And then they don't even get to play the song, but they just play like the opening sort of bit. But then later on, they do play it.
Yeah, in the credits.
Do they change? Sorry, do they change anything about the fact that Doc steals the materials he needs from actual terrorists who then arrive with in full on terrorist garb, shooting at him with. I was going to say that's one part that has aged strangely.
I think it was strange for back then, even, dude.
No, I think they should have kept it in.
I mean, sure. I'm not suggesting they should have changed it. I just guess they would.
To be fair, I think that's one of those weird questions. Like we've talked about films quite a few times on the pod, and I have a bit of a stickler for how things get done in films and things that feel right and things that don't feel right. And morality is a big thing in films. Like you can't have a moral character do an immoral act for their own ends. It always has to be because someone did this or because this. So how do you get a moral character to steal weapons-grade plutonium? You can't. That's an immoral act, right? You can't have them steal it from a power plant or the government.
Yeah, they've got to take it from a bad guy, so it goes
they have to take it from a bad guy.
noble act almost.
Exactly, because then not only are they doing a moral act because they're, like you say, a noble thing because they're taking the plutonium away from the bad guys. Yeah, it's making good. It's even going further than neutralizing it. It's doing a good act.
Okay, but so then how did they do it in the musical then? How did they justify it?
So they do it. Like they say, I think he says, "Where did you get it from?" And he says, "Terrorists." Or something like that, but they just gloss over it. And then when the bit where they turn up and they shoot him with the AK-47, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
He irradiates himself by accident. And he dies of radiation poisoning.
Jesus, okay.
What?
And then Marty, this is the weirdest bit actually, and then Marty has to go and get help. So he gets in the car and like canes it off to try and find help. And then he hits 88 miles an hour and goes back in time.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part. That was the only part that's that weird. The rest of it is not like that.
I remember
the whole show's great.
There's a musical version of Groundhog Day that I really wanted to go see.
Oh, is there? I would have loved that. I didn't know there was
but
one.
I think it was like a limited run, and I don't even know if it came to London stuff at all. But yeah, that stuff's cool. Like I'd like to go and see Back to the Future musical. Sounds like a riot.
They did an American Psycho musical as well. I remember that being like, hang on a second, that doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, that sounds more fun.
Do you remember the Spider-Man musical that they did? That like where almost every
it was a disaster, right?
Yeah, like people were breaking bones left, right, and center.
Oh wow!
It was like cursed.
The American Psycho though, I think that sounds amazing because obviously so much of that film is based on music.
Yeah,
he's obsessed with music. He's obsessive about music.
It was Matt. Is his name Matt Smith, the guy who was Doctor Who at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was him. He was in
I can see that.
the London version of that production, at least.
Oh, that does sound amazing. All
right, here's a question. If you could turn one game into a musical...
Shit.
That would be good.
That's a good question.
That's a fucking great question.
Imagine playing a game.
I would be very surprised if you don't answer, for Jamie, what I would imagine you would answer. Jonesy, I don't know what you would choose.
Hang on, now you're making me second guess myself because my
good one.
Well, my first thought was like, okay, is it should we be taking something that's a product that's completely removed from all musical inspiration to begin with, so they have to musicify non-musical elements, or do you take something that's a little bit more in that area already? So the first thing that popped into my head was The Artful Escape, which is basically like tailor-made to be a musical, and of course like the production design would be very expensive and very extravagant, but The Artful Escape would almost be a better musical than a video game in some respects. Another thing that popped into my head, and I'm not sure if this is just because it's never been translated into another form of media yet, and I think it absolutely should be, but something in the BioShock or BioShock Infinite kind of reach. I think the only reason I'm saying that is because I always remember that sort of barbershop quartet cover of God Only Knows that they used for BioShock Infinite, and it's like imprinted in my brain. There's that. And then the obvious
great settings.
What's nice about that is you can get the spectacle as well. Especially if you talk about BioShock Infinite, you can get like Songbird involved.
Totally.
That's what you want in the musical. It's not just the songs, but it's the spectacle as well.
Yeah. And then I'll just throw it there because they seem somewhat obvious. Like, I think that at some point we're going to have to come to terms with a musical interpretation of Mario and Sonic separately. Not like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, the musical. Like
no, that one specifically.
I'd probably go and see that.
I would have thought that Jamie would have said Doom.
A Doom musical would be great.
Especially when you think of like, okay, so obviously they kind of had a falling out with Mick Gordon, but when he was like making the music for Doom Eternal, and he said, yeah, I'm putting together a demonic choir.
Yes, yeah.
I would like to see a demonic choir in a musical. That'd be pretty cool.
Pretty
I think maybe a little bit of Nier Automata. There's a lot of great music in that game, a lot of very big sort of like choral elements. I'm thinking about that one ending that I liked very much, and we talked about all the time at All Time Gaming, like the reveal of a big choir for that.
Oh, with the credits,
that specific ending, would be very cool.
Go on. So Jamie's picked about 8 games. Chris, what would you go for?
Yes,
it is very, very hard. I think I'd probably go Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, that's a great shout. Yeah,
easy. As Jamie mentioned, like you'd imagine the Marios and the Sonics. Like I would say specifically Super Mario Galaxy. because that music fucking slaps.
It would be the hardest one to do, but it would be very fun if they managed to find a way to do it somehow.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, it's hard, man. Like, a God of War one actually could be pretty sick, like, especially with the
the style of music would be cool, right? It would be all that sort of like old like Norse storytelling kind of music would be good.
Yeah.
Cool, man. And they could do some cool shit with, like, you know, if you think of like just creative stage direction with like the Leviathan axe and all that shit, and especially when a little bit of spoiler territory, but it's a fucking old game, so who cares? When Kratos has the vision from fucking, who is it? Is it Athena? It is Athena,
the most recent one where she's like sort of like taunting
like the statue.
him.
Yeah, as the statue in the doorway. Like that shit could be like that shit could be sick in a fucking musical, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
I've got a good one.
Okay, so I keep getting ideas. That's why.
Okay, just imagine, right, with a musical, you want, like you said, you want spectacle, you want different locations, you want different like people that can come in, different like types of people, all that sort of stuff. Hitman, the musical, would be wicked.
I think, I can imagine that.
Agent 47, like walking down the stairs in some fancy casino singing a song, and you've got all, like the people spinning around and dancing and singing, and like nearly every song ends with him stabbing someone or garroting them, or like halfway through the song, like everyone's dancing and singing, and then he's in the background just like smashing someone in the head. With,
so it's almost like a Sweeney Todd kind of style.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. I think that'd be quite cool.
Yeah,
I could see it. Surely there's got to be some sort of like Metal Gear Solid.
That was one of the ones I was going to say is like how I don't know how you turn those codec conversations into songs, but if they manage to have those people singing those conversations back and forth, that'd be great. The other thought that came into my mind was kind of doing something that was a bit of a musical, but also had these like high wire sort of Cirque du Soleil style performers, and doing like a what are they called, I forget the name of it's like a stylish action game, like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta, using like Cirque du Soleil style, like fucking gymnasts to fucking fly around.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
hey, cool. I think anyone out there, if you're in musical theatre and you want to use one of our ideas, hit us up. You can buy the rights to any of these musicals for low fee because they haven't been written. Anyway, let's move on. See, Chris, what have you been playing this week, or seeing, or doing? In fact,
I haven't been playing much. You know, as is the traditional thing.
We're all on pause. We're all waiting.
Well, I haven't even had time to kind of like stream this week. It's kind of been a little bit mental, but I've been playing Vampire Survivors because that's an easy game to kind of like dip in, dip out of. I think I've come to the end of that. We mentioned it in the Patreon podcast that we just recorded, so I'm not going to go delve too much into it. I've been watching a lot of Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus, and I'll tell you what, that series as a whole is really shit. But the last 2 episodes were awesome, and the reason they were awesome is because they weren't about Boba Fett; they were about the Mandalorian.
Right?
Yeah, I heard about this.
Do you know what? I was just going to say. Isn't it just like a weird new Mandalorian? It looks pretty. No,
it's so shit. Honestly, it's like just like
a shit Mandalorian. Wow. Okay,
like you know I mean, it would need to have you guys to watch it at some point, but to do a spoiler cast on that would be so good. It's still going. Like there's still episodes coming up, so I don't want to speak too much about it. But like the last 2 episodes were good because they weren't about Boba Fett.
Did you? I don't know if you guys saw it this week. We're going to talk about it this week, but the Halo trailer. Did you guys watch it?
Yeah,
I did watch it. Yes,
I got seriously strong Mandalorian vibes from that as well.
I just thought it looked shit.
It didn't look good.
No, it didn't look good.
It looked really bad.
It was all the sort of fears I had after that original teaser trailer, where it's like something about the Halo aesthetic isn't translating to this show, even down to like what Master Chief looks like. It doesn't matter how accurate that armor is; he just doesn't look like he fits in the world they've created. And everything about this new trailer just cemented those fears, regrettably.
Yeah, right.
And obviously, Cortana's the thing that people are dunking on, but there's bigger problems.
I'm still gonna watch at least the first episode just to kind of get into it, right? But yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'll give it a shot, maybe.
Can I give you just a very quick kind of like headline of my gripe with Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Is why is it that we always have to have a backstory and motivation and continuation of things that don't need to have backstories or motivations or continuations? Like Boba Fett was cool because he was a badass that you never fucking knew much about and he died.
I think, you know what? I think they do it is because if they don't do it, they're worried that every person talking about it will go, they don't really round out the character. He's just like one note and they don't tell you anything about his backstory. And I'm like,
yeah, but Jonesy, he died.
I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that shit.
But he died in the film. Like, you don't need, first of all, you don't need to bring him back. And second of all, if you do bring him back, fucking do him justice. Don't fucking do what you did with him in this. And there's something to be said for the Mandalorian itself in saying like, hey, you could take like the idea of that character and just create a different character where it doesn't have any of the baggage and you've got free fucking reign to do what you want to do. And that's what worked.
There's also a part of me that has felt like I've observed, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I've just, got the wrong end of the stick, but from a distance I've seen this weird fascination around Jango Fett and Boba Fett and bounty hunter-like characters from Star Wars fans, where it felt like the word for a long time was, hey, great, Jedis are cool, we love exploring the idea of the Jedis against the Sith, but these dudes are actually the ones that are really cool. And every time someone wants a Star Wars game or pitches a dream Star Wars game, it's, what if they made a third-person action-adventure game where you played as a bounty hunter? And I feel like everyone's heard that elevator pitch now for a billion times, no matter how many times someone's tried to make that game and it's been cancelled at various stages of development. And now, like, the archetype of that character is getting his own show. From what I gather, it doesn't maybe hit all the notes that people who would have wanted that kind of show would have wanted to be hit, and maybe that's the problem. But at the same time, I can kind of see why they ended up looping back around to a character like that. Like, for someone who could be so irrelevant and forgettable, fans did seem to latch onto him.
Yeah.
Right?
Weirdly so, yeah, because he really did not feature very much in the original stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's just like,
wasn't there weird more lore around him though after the fact, like with people doing their own stories about him and like comics about him and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, sure. There was that kind of like extended universe thing that when Disney took over, they said, that's not canon.
Yeah, they retconned all of that, right?
Yeah.
So then is the actor that plays Boba Fett in this, is it the actor who plays Boba Fett's dad in the new trilogy?
Yes.
Django.
Yeah. Django Fett.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But he played, it's the same actor.
Yeah, it's the same guy. Yeah, because the idea was that Boba Fett is
a clone, right?
A clone, but a specialized clone that aged normally, whereas the other clones. Anyway, I'm a Star Wars nerd,
he's like the archetype for the clones, right? He's the thing they use to build them all from.
But then that makes no sense to me, because then surely all of the clones are Boba Fett as well. Django
Bubba.
Fett. They're all Django Fett.
Bubba Fett.
Bubba Ray Fett.
But then so all the clones are Django Fett and they're Boba Fett as well. They're all the same. Like they're
So that's how clones work traditionally.
Exactly. Yeah. So then it's not that special, then, is it?
Well, no. So
he's run of the mill.
Okay. No, he's not, because
Boba Fett's not because he was a kid.
He's purebred.
But all the other clones are Django Fett, basically.
Yes, all the other clones are like high. They went through like this process of like making those clones develop to proper age like super fast.
Yes.
But they didn't do that with Boba, and then Boba was trained directly with Django, whereas the rest were kind of trained by I forget what the alien names were. But anyway, whatever.
Right.
And funny enough, as big as a fucking Star Wars, big as a Star Wars nerd as I am, I know that like there's holes in what I said, and someone's gonna fucking call me out. But fucking whatever.
Oh, but it's also so boring. Like Star Wars lore is like
some of it is boring, but a lot of it is fucking fascinating, and that's why people love it.
Do you know what's cool? Lightsabers. That's what's cool.
You know what else is
cool? They
cool?
are pretty rad.
Bounty hunters.
They are cool as well.
But yeah, anyway, the last kind of thing to catch up on is I played some Death's Door, fellas, because it's obviously on Game Pass now. So I took the plunge. Have either of you tried it yet?
No, not at all. Like I said,
this was one of 4 games I bought simultaneously on the Epic Game Store before it was announced to be arriving on Xbox Game Pass. And because I've had a desire to finish games like Cyberpunk, which I'm really dragging out now, I have yet to move on to any of them, but Death's Door is amongst them.
Yeah, right, fair. Ah, gosh, Death's Door. You know what I'm going to say to you?
What? Why was that? I can't gauge that reaction at all.
It's not clicking with me, mate. Like,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, it's and disappointingly so, because on the surface you'd think like, yeah, that's good, but yeah, it's just something about it is just not clicking, and it's like every time I try and jump back in, I'm just like, it's not.
what part of it is kind of, are you not
It's tough to put
grabbed by?
Yeah, it's tough to put my finger on it. I don't know, like it's slightly boring. I think the combat is like very simplistic and repetitive, which, to be fair, I knew that going into it from various reviews. But I think that mixed in with maybe I got to go further into it. But then again, like you need to say to yourself, like, if the game doesn't fucking grab you, the game doesn't grab you. Like saying, like, oh, it gets better halfway through. Like that doesn't really.
No, totally. Yeah, that's.
That was a terrible argument when you're like saying I want to give up on a game, and someone's like, it does get better. You're like.
I'm saying this, hey, you realise that as you become an adult, you guys even more so being fathers and husbands, like, that just doesn't pass the litmus test anymore. And there was an argument that on Twitter this week, an argument on Twitter, around Dying Light 2, where a journalist called Patrick Klepek, he said, hey, like, seeing as the embargo's up, I just wanted to let everyone know, I played like 13 hours of Dying Light 2, and the way that game sort of like progression systems unravel and the rate at which you unlock things, I think it's too slow for me, and I don't think I'm having enough fun for the amount of time I put in, and I'm kind of falling off. And one guy replied like, oh, playing 13 hours of Dying Light 2 is like watching the opening scene of a movie. You've barely scratched the surface. And it's just one of those things where, like, if we're gatekeeping around, like, especially gigantic open world video games now, where someone can't make a decision after 13 hours to say, hey, I'm not having enough fun for my time and I'm done. Like, bro, if you're not having enough fun after 2 hours of a game like Dying Light 2, then say, hey, it's not for me, and move on. Like, there's more games out there.
Yeah. Although there is an element to be said, like, but you are a game reviewer, right?
No, he's not though. He's a journalist, but he's not reviewing it. He just gave his thoughts.
So
on
he
Twitter.
wasn't reviewing the game.
No, he's not. He's
okay.
no. Oh, sorry. Yeah, if his assignment was to review it on behalf of a website, that would be very different.
Yeah.
I'd like to think at least.
But yeah, like I think I saw it from one of the. It might have been Jeff Gersman, to be honest, or maybe it was Jeff Grubb, saying that that game in particular is very much. It's almost like they've tailored the progression system for that. He's joking, obviously, but like it feels like the progression system is tailored to a 500-hour playthrough because things just fucking drip feed through to you.
There's a weird thing in that game as well, because obviously you had minor controversy where Techland came out and said, 500 hours, and then they re-clarified and were like, oh, it's 80 hours. And then they sort of came out again and said, okay, look, it's 20 hours to finish the main campaign, 80 hours to do like a good solid run through and do like all the side quests, and it's 500 hours to finish everything and get every ending.
Like 100% it. Yeah.
But then a whole bunch of people have come out and have said that game is not 20 hours long to finish the main campaign. They're like, it is like 35, 40, 55, something like that hours. It's like get up there if you're someone who wants to do side quests. And I know I'm awful for like grinding on side quests in order to like get through a game. I do that all the time. So it's a long ass game as well. So it's I think if you want someone to just a journalist as well, not even a reviewer, to like not only commit 13 hours and say I don't think it's for me, you're like, no, stick with it for the full 50 and then come back and say, I was right, I didn't like it. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's like saying like with like Death Stranding, like, stick to the fucking 60 to 80 hours that you got to fucking play that game just walking across America. Like, come on.
See, like it's like those things can be true, but you just can't like phrase them or position them in such a way where it's like an instruction, right? It can be true that things improve over a course of time. Like a game could peak at the 50-hour mark, but that doesn't mean you can like try and tell people that that's how much they need to play before they can have an opinion on it.
But I also feel that like in the lead up to that point, there needs to be enough to kind of say to you, like, hey, here are the seeds that you should identify will grow into this thing that you are going to like, right? Whereas I think with Death's Door, I don't know, I'm just having a really fucking, like, it is not grown on me.
There are no seeds.
I mean, there are literal seeds in the game that you plant to recover health. But just, I don't know. And maybe it's a case of like, maybe it's just where we're at the release cycle in terms of saying like, hey, Shifu's going to come out and Elden Ring, and it's just like, who cares? They're
Yeah,
still
totally.
and it's a shame, personal shame to me, because it is a game that I was looking forward to, and I wanted to like it, like, didn't work out.
Yeah,
but I think there's so many games these days, and they're so long often, and they cost so much. I think you need to know when it's right time to say, I'm not that into it.
Yeah, especially as people who, no matter how many people watch or listen to it, we do put ourselves out there every week on a podcast talking about games and talking about new releases and being somewhat in touch with the industry and what's happening. And I think sometimes, I don't know if you two suffer with this, but I do suffer from this weird thing of feeling like I have almost a responsibility to know about or have touched or have played certain things. And I think sometimes I conflate that sort of responsibility to play something with an actual desire to. And I remember last year, I mentioned I bought a bunch of games on Epic during their winter sale. One of the games I bought was Inscription, because it was sort of came out of nowhere as a bit of an indie hit and was well received in some corners and ended up winning some, pretty decent awards, like, Game of the Year in certain publications. But nothing I've ever seen or heard or read about that game, even the potential intrigue that lies beyond that first act, has ever really made me interested in playing it for the sake of playing it. I've been interested in playing it for the sake of having played Inscription and being able to say I played Inscription and it's not for me. Same with like Outer Wilds. Like I bounced off Outer Wilds 3 times because I was determined to not be the guy that hated Outer Wilds. But in the end, I was the guy who didn't get it. And that's my role.
Maybe it seems like that's our role. Like that's the SuperShow role. It's just not fucking getting game. But yeah, but I totally get what you mean. But I think like last year was the straw that broke the camel's back for me in terms of stuff like that. Like I do not live the lifestyle where I can be directly involved with a lot of the things that we cover. So it's more like just kind of be involved in them on the periphery than like directly on them. But I try, I dabble and I try, and it's just, it's a no from me, dog.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, no, fair enough, dude. Well, with that, I think it's probably time to talk about the one and only news story that we're going to touch on this week, which is, of course, Sony buying Bungie for a reported $3.6 billion, which, of course, isn't a reaction to Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, which a lot of people sort of said, like, Sony have rushed out and done this because they want to buy something as well. But I mean, this must have been in the works for a decent amount of time. It is interesting, though, isn't it? Because it kind of maybe is the start of something. I think if Microsoft are making moves now, Sony's making moves. It's definitely not going to be the last purchase, I think, that we see.
Oh, and Jeff Keighley even came out on Twitter saying, like, this is not the last thing you're going to hear about this year.
I have a theory as well.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's hear it. Let's see if you are the Nostradamus that I am.
Microsoft have bought Activision Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sony have bought Bungie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what? It's alphabetical. They're moving their way through the alphabet.
It's Capcom.
Capcom could be next. Yep. Could be.
But who's buying Capcom? Sony or Microsoft?
It's Microsoft. It's going to go one then the other. They're going to go Microsoft,
Bro,
Sony, Microsoft, Sony.
If Microsoft buy Activision and Capcom and Sony have sat there with Bungie, the scales are not that even on that. But
that's because
maybe.
Sony are waiting to get to the E's before they can buy EA.
Yeah. I also love the idea that Microsoft are like having that deal investigated for whether or not it's fair play and whether or not they're creating a monopoly and all of that. And during that investigation, they're like, we bought Capcom as well. Sorry, oopsie.
Whoops.
That would slightly make everything a little bit more difficult, wouldn't it? Then they're hoping that Sony makes some more purchases so that they can say, see, we're not a monopoly. They keep buying things as well.
Exactly, yeah.
But look, let's touch on a few of the factual points before we sort of chat about it a bit further because, so like I said, the deal's come along at $3.6 billion. But Bungie have
Doesn't that sound like chump change now?
Does sound like chump change.
Yes, absolutely.
Like it's most certainly fucking
65 billion, was it for Activision Blizzard? Was it 65?
69.
69. Of course it was 69. They couldn't resist. But yeah, Bungie did a little bit of a Q&A because, of course, as soon as you say that Bungie are getting bought, everyone freaks the hell out because they start thinking that Destiny 2 is going to go PlayStation only. So Bungie came out and sort of would just try to put off some of those fears, and they said that they are being bought by Sony, but they are still going to be independent. They are still going to be cross-platform. They're still going to have everything releasing onto... well, they didn't specify platforms, but they said they will be a multi-platform like games company, which is maybe selective language. It means that they might pick and choose as to where those games appear, and they might not be on every console and every place you would expect, but it looks good for people at the moment. They're effectively, it's weird. It's like they've said that they're not really being bought. They're just getting the lovely Sony money and they're carrying on as they are, which is kind of strange.
Yes.
I think they're just kind of taking a it's going to sound weird, but I think they are being probably correctly influenced by Xbox and how Xbox have been dealing with some of their acquisitions in terms of saying like, hey, we're just here as kind of like your big brother. We've got the money, we've got the resources, and we've got the know-how, and we're going to help you out. Like you look at what they did with Double Fine, for instance. A lot of the stuff that Double Fine benefited from being purchased by Xbox had nothing to do with like the game that they're making, but more just like the access that they had in terms of like they were able to give like a whole lot more accessibility options, as an example. Like a stupid example, sure, but it's like stuff like moving that company onto Xbox's HR, for instance, and payroll and stuff like that. Like that's where the benefits come in. Obviously, they could be a lot more hands-on, and I'm sure they are a lot more hands-on with certain studios over other studios. But I think Sony are looking at this and they're saying like, hey, this is maybe the way to go for this particular studio.
Not silent, but almost silent partner, as opposed to trying to really steer the ship, take the reins kind of thing.
Yeah, the best thing you could do with certain companies is give them the backing to do the thing that they do best, right? And if you think of like Activision Blizzard as an example, what Activision did was destroy Blizzard by not letting Blizzard do what Blizzard do best.
Right.
And instead trying to make Blizzard do what Activision do best, which doesn't work for Blizzard. And that's why Blizzard is in the state that it's in.
It's also quite clever because Sony, with all their first party stuff, do have a bit of a hole that Destiny 2 would fit quite nicely into. What Bungie do best is that kind of like service games, first person shooter kind of thing, which is a hole in PlayStation's roster at the moment. So maybe that fills that quite nicely. And they've also said that going forward, Bungie will be making 10 live service games by 2026. Which
I think that's a Sony thing, not a Bungie thing.
Oh, sorry, that's
Sony. That would be a lot of games for one studio to make in 4 years.
I did think that. So no, sorry, Sony, not specifically Bungie. But that's something obviously that they can really push. Like Bungie can maybe help Sony with, because if you look at Sony's first party stuff, they more like obviously story driven.
And when it comes to live ongoing service games, especially on home consoles as opposed to just being on PC, Bungie have slowly positioned themselves as being one of the most experienced developers in the world when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to creating one centralized hub for content, when it comes to releasing free and paid expansions, when it comes to updating or patching a games, whether that's, updates have to be downloaded by the end user or delivered through server and so on and so forth. Like Bungie have grown to get a lot of experience for that stuff. And in fact, it's interesting, I was listening to a podcast earlier and they made a funny observation that if you go back to the development of Destiny and Bungie getting used to and getting to grips with those mechanics, there's a great story in Jason Schreier's first book where he talks about how under the Activision banner at the time, ironically, Bungie had to work with and learn a lot from the Diablo 3 team to get to grips with making a live service game. And it is somewhat funny now that the Diablo team and the Diablo franchise exists under Activision, now under Microsoft and Xbox, and now Bungie exists under Sony.
Yeah.
But I suppose Bungie are one of those companies that have worked with and been owned by so many companies in the past, it was bound to get incestuous at some point.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
It's a bit like a Hollywood romance where someone's had a kid with someone and is married to someone, and then they get divorced and get with someone else who's been with someone else. It all gets a bit weird. It gets very strange. It's one thing I think though about this, because they're saying that they're not really going to be, messed around with too much by Sony. They're going to stay independent. That doesn't really, that I suppose doesn't take account of how much pressure like whoever owns you can put on you almost in the background though, does it? Like when it comes to hiring, when it comes to maybe just suggesting that certain people like get put into the business. I do wonder if there'll be a little bit of that kind of pressure from Sony that, hey, if you need a new whatever a high up role it is, and then you put a few friendly people in at high places, even though you don't have any direct control, you can definitely have some kind of like sort of shadow control, if you like, which they've got to be looking for to some degree, right?
Yeah, it's the honeymoon phase, isn't it? Like we've experienced this firsthand where there's a little bit of a merger or a takeover of some kind, and hey, everyone smiles and handshakes and promises and hugs and good intentions, and over time, like that narrative changes for whatever reason, right? And this to be expected. Culture is sorry, Jamie, just to interrupt. Culture is a big thing between companies, especially when companies are kind of like being merged or bought over, purchased, whatever it is. And cultural fits, like it's a big reason why some things work and some things don't. And last thing I'm going to say is I can't wait for Jason Schreier's third book where he talks about the failure of all of this stuff going on that we're talking about now.
No, cultures are fascinating because, like, again, we've sat in a room with people who have told us that they love our culture, they admire our culture, they may be even envious of our culture, only to then, in one way or another, directly or indirectly, change that culture. I think that's just that's the nature of the beast when it comes to these two at one time separate entities coming closer together, and one slowly infecting the other. And infecting suggests it's something malicious, like a fucking parasite or something. It doesn't have to be. These kind of relationships can be harmonious, and I think there are some positives here in the early wording for Bungie. These are things that Sony are saying outright that Microsoft have not said outright about companies like Bethesda and Activision and all the studios that fall under those banners. But at the same time, like I think, like what Jonesy was just hinting at, and I don't know what form it will take, there is still something in this deal where I'm like, there's a grand plan, there's a master plan somewhere here that the full scope of which isn't being revealed. Because fundamentally, you do not buy Bungie, you didn't spend $4 billion on anyone to just say, yes, Bungie are going to keep making Destiny 2, they're going to keep making it as a multi-platform game, they're going to remain independent, and that's that. Like, yes, it adds to technically their flock of studios and, the IP that they now own, and it's another studio under their banner that is doing the kind of the live service games that they want to explore more in the future. But at the same time, like, no company ever just buys a company to have them keep operating the exact same way indefinitely. There has to be an asterisk in there.
It's got to be for their expertise for games as a service, and they're looking at that. Like, that's their juicy hook.
That's like, the future that they haven't moved into yet, really, isn't it? That's what they want to add to their
but like, what does that like look like? All of a sudden, a major like another first party Sony studio like Naughty Dog or a Guerrilla or a Sucker Punch or an Insomniac are making something, and it's co-developed by Bungie. And what that means is like a fraction of the Bungie workforce are working with that other studio to help get those live service or multiplayer hooks in a way that... To be fair,
Jamie, they have enough of a workforce because they have 900 employees, don't they? And effectively, they make one game. So,
it blew my mind when I saw it. I had to... it's one of those ones where looking at Wikipedia wasn't enough. I had to click on the little number next to that number to go down to the bottom of the Wikipedia page and found the article that it was linked to.
For the citation,
Yeah, because I was like, what the... how the fuck?
900 employees for like one game and its expansion is kind of mad. We kind of did a cursory kind of check, but a company also owned by Sony now, Insomniac Games, have just over 400 employees, but then the amount of games that they're working on, that kind of makes sense. They're working on Wolverine, they're working on obviously Spider-Man 2, they just finished up Ratchet and Clank, and whatever else they've got on the burner. Like it,
right, exactly.
It's mad to think that Bungie is that big.
Yeah, and even Sucker Punch, who developed Ghost of Tsushima, at the time that Ghost of Tsushima shipped, they had around 150 employees. So you could scrape like a fraction of the employees off the top of Bungie, make them a second team, and have your own bona fide FPS studio with some of the best FPS chops in the industry. And that's a part of that Sony first-party stable that isn't there yet at the moment.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that there are, and I'm not suggesting this is what they do rather than creating new IPs, but there are some dormant IPs in the PlayStation back catalogue, like Resistance, like Killzone, that haven't been touched for a while because there aren't any FPS studios around, in so much as there is such a thing as an FPS studio.
Yeah.
Do you think that given Bungie's record with like how they've worked with people before, so I'm specifically thinking about Activision, right? They were with Activision for like 9 years, I think, and then they terminated the deal. I think it was 2010 to 2019 because they said that they had basically they had differing ideas about where Destiny was going, and they decided to not carry on the partnership. So
Activision wanted Destiny 3, basically, is what it came down to, I think.
Yeah, and Destiny 4 and Destiny 5 as a yearly fucking release.
Bungie basically said, "Hey, look, we have different ideas. We don't want to do what you want to do, and so we could better part ways." Do you think
culture, baby?
Do you think that's likely? Within 10 years' time, we see that with Sony as well, because that honeymoon period ends, and then Sony starts to sort of maybe.
It depends on the contract, right, Jonesy? Like Bungie had this fucking ironclad contract with Activision where they could walk out.
They could
with ownership of Destiny.
Yeah,
and I don't imagine that Sony would go for that. I mean, I don't know. We don't know the pure details of it, but I wouldn't imagine so.
Yeah. Also, Bungie had a similarly awkward experience and departure from Microsoft just before Activision. And there's a part of you that, again, I know companies and their boards and the directors and so on don't operate like individual entities, so you can't treat their track record as something that should be consistent and as an entity that can learn from their mistakes. But you'd like to think that a company that has had high-profile departures from Microsoft and then Activision knows what they're going into and what they want from a relationship with a company like Sony. And maybe that's not the case, but if there's another like unceremonious split in like 6 years, then I don't know what Bungie were thinking.
What is interesting as well, of course, I think about this is that and it's a new way of thinking about games in general, because when you talk about Bungie and you say that, hey, look, they've got 900 employees, they make one game, they make Destiny 2 at the moment, and it does sound kind of crazy, but actually when you look at all the expansions that have been released with Destiny, the way that they support the game, the new, all the new stuff that they put into that, it's not one game, is it? It's a Goliath of sort of like something that's constantly being worked on, constantly being managed by people, constantly being run. So it is kind of, it feels weird to say that it's like a one-game studio, even if they're talking about, releasing more games or another game coming up. I think they're working on another IP at the moment, right? Or they're working on something else at the moment.
There is something that was, because I think it was the Chinese company NetEase, right? Invested a fairly large sum of money, nothing compared to what Sony have obviously paid for Bungie outright, but some amount of money into Bungie a handful of years ago. And I think the talk was that they were working on something with NetEase that made use of that investment. It was in like it was like $100 million or something like that, or maybe it was in the hundreds of millions. I can't remember, but there was definitely talk around that. And I don't know what that means for the Sony deal or the independence thing, the cross-platform thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It gets so bizarre these days with like cross-pollination, with what deal have you already got with another developer, a studio, or like a platform. So for example, they've already come out and said, like, look, all of the expansions for Destiny 2 that we've said about are going to relaunch on the Xbox. Like, you're going to be able to play those, cross-play is going to work, everything's going to be fine. But then going out into the future, obviously, that's when it gets a little bit weird, and you start to wonder how Sony start to say, well, one of the things I wonder in these sorts of things is, are Sony going to use leverage by the fact that they do have some control you would expect over Bungie and Destiny and all the people that play on Xbox? Will they use that rather than to stop putting it onto the Xbox, basically to pressure Xbox not to do it to them? So when it comes to Xbox saying, actually, we're not going to release games on the PlayStation, you then get Sony turning around and going, hey man, that's fine. Look, if you don't want to release some like Blizzard games or whatever on the PlayStation, that's fine. Maybe we'll rethink about releasing the next expansion for Destiny onto the Xbox. I wonder if there's more of those.
Yeah, but Xbox are holding the cards.
Yeah, if that's the plan, then Sony have just brought a knife to a gunfight, right? What if you guys don't get Destiny?
But at the moment, they've got their hand in their pocket, right? Because you don't know what Sony are going to do for the rest of the year. You don't know who else they're going to try and buy. But I do wonder if a lot of this is like posturing and just like positioning so that they can try and pressure each other in the console wars to come to say, look, let's not fuck around. You put your games on my platform, I'll put my games on your platform.
Yeah.
We'll all make money.
I mean, that's like one of the things of the Cold War, right? And actually, this may be me making it up, but it felt like it should be one of the things of the Cold War, right? Which is when everyone's got a nuclear weapon, the problem is if you use yours, they'll use theirs, and everyone just dies.
Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah. So maybe there is a bit of that going on here where it's like, but that said, again, like these things take a long time to figure out, and these companies will take a long time to reveal their full hand when it comes to what they're going to do with the studios and the publishers that they're purchasing. I think Phil and Mike's, I love that I'm on first name terms with them, Dr. Spencer and Microsoft's plans for at least the short-term impact that he wants these acquisitions to have on Xbox's plans makes sense. He just wants to make Game Pass as an essential element of a modern gamer's package as he possibly can, all the way down to one point that we didn't actually even discuss that episode. I think it was you and I, Jonesy, talking about it at the time, and we never even mentioned the possibility of Game Pass on PlayStation, which I know some people in like the comments and stuff like that have reminded us of. Like, who maybe Phil's aiming for that, and I don't know what Sony's plan is as a rebuttal at the moment, or even if there is a plan for a rebuttal. Because I think, well, again, this time last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, most of us kind of agreed that Sony were still pretty cool just being themselves. Like, they didn't feel like the Activision thing had scuppered anything they were working on. The idea that acquiring Bungie is like them now, saddling up for an arms race, I don't buy it just yet. I still think this could be like a strategic thing that Sony had an eye on and have plans for beyond the Microsoft battle, if you will.
Yes. It's a strange thing as well because, like, I know you hate this, Jamie, but when you look at like companies, obviously they have to look ahead like 10, 20 years, however long. You have to also wonder if they're thinking about like the end of consoles in general, like as a hardware, and then you think of more about it as a service thing. So maybe they are in some sense thinking about the far future, all of Microsoft and Sony, and thinking, hey, in 10, 20 years time, when there are no consoles, we do want IP. We do want to have the sole control of like the Netflix as a service sort of thing. When you've got the Sony service, when you've got the Xbox service, how does that function? And you want to have your hands on like some big names, some big titles. So maybe at the moment it doesn't matter. It's like, I don't give a shit if it's on the Xbox. I don't give a shit where it is at the moment because we're positioning ourselves for that future that may come, whenever it does come.
And of course, that would explain all the massive acquisitions that Google have made in the last 24 months.
Mate, it will come. It will come.
Yeah, Stadia's going to take off, for sure.
Yeah. The team that literally just shut down their internal team that was entirely designed to make games for their platform, they're definitely saddled up for the future.
Well, we'll see.
Crazy.
Anyway, should we move on from Bungie? Should we talk about some games that we know are definitely coming out? Not pie in the sky.
You can't. Hang on.
Let's finish last week's podcast.
Also, I love the confidence that Jonesy just said. Like, should we talk about games that we know are coming out next year? Like, most of these won't be.
Yeah, majority of them were like unknown.
Yes, but actually, what's funny is since we recorded part 1 last week, we already know that one of the games we were going to talk about isn't coming out, has been bumped to 2023.
Yeah, fucking Suicide Squad. There we go.
Fucking hell, yeah.
Not going to be.
And what they put out that trailer at the Game Awards in December, literally like 2 months ago, being like, yeah, 2022, boys. Get ready.
If you go back and you listen to what I said about that trailer, I had some questions. I was like, this does not seem like there's a game that I can exactly imagine what it is yet. This is not like... there were definitely questions around it.
I think the thing that I was confused by is that, hang on a second, why are we seeing more Suicide Squad before we see more Gotham Knights? And why does the Suicide Squad trailer have a date on it, but the Gotham Knights trailer doesn't? And now the whole thing's been flip reversed. And Gotham Knights will probably come out this year after all. So.
Well,
should we talk about the Belfry?
We actually don't know.
We don't know, but probably.
Yeah, I think with a lot of the games we're going to talk about, the ever ominous asterisk is going to be there, right? Like, could be.
Yes, exactly. Like anything that doesn't have a concrete date inside the next 2 to 3 months is eligible for fucking vanishing off into the ether.
Man.
I'm still convinced that God of War is the most definite one, which is going to be pushed for absolutely.
Mate,
it's
coming out in May. Don't know what you're talking about.
Should we talk about? Let's talk about first of all one game which I think is probably going to get pushed because it's ripe for the pushing, which of course is Starfield, which is supposed to be coming out in November.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I think it's one of those. Do you know what? I know it's too easy to invoke, but when you say space-based RPG, I mean, you got to think of Star Citizen to some degree, right? And and Starfield has been a name which has been talked about for such a long time. At the moment, I think any date that you try and attach to it is always going to be a little bit high in the sky.
I mean, at the time that they announced it, we were so fucking surprised that they actually slapped on a fucking date on it. Like, to be fair, it could be as tentative as possible. I mean, 11th of November. Like, that's kind of saying, like, that's about as far as you can push a release date in like...
I know. It felt like someone in that marketing department said, you know what sounds cool? 11-11-22. Because 11 plus 11 equals 22. Someone was just like, fuck it. Like, we don't know when this game's going to come out, but that sounds like a pretty cool thing to flaunt for the next year. But then... let's announce a release date 18 months early.
On the other hand, and again, it's something that I don't really... This never really brushed me the wrong way, but it's not like Bethesda have any issues releasing a game in a less than ideal state. You know,
no, all with
if there's ever a dev that is like, hey, let's just fucking get it out on the date that we say we get it out. Fucking bugs be damned.
We like jank. We like jank.
Yeah,
but
it's part of the charm, baby.
But then,
please don't say that.
But that side of it, the jank charm side, I do kind of get it. Like, because in some senses, it's just it's just something that you have to deal with in that genre of game because they are so big and unwieldy and there's so much going on that I kind of get it. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. But at the same time, I don't think it'll be, like, they're not going to push it because they say, oh, there's a bit of jank there. Like you said, they would just put it out. But I feel like this is a different prospect. This is a 2022 space-faring, like, RPG. Like, they need more time. I just think they need more time. Yeah. But the trailer was cool, man. I was into the trailer.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It wasn't,
I think it's going to be cool, but I
didn't see much, but it was cool to see it, at least.
I think I said it previously in the podcast, but I would imagine that it would be like a critically acclaimed game by the critics, and that the general population probably won't be as hot on it. I just kind of get that feeling. I kind of feel like it's one of those games that's going to be like kind of divisive and maybe a little bit difficult for mainstream to kind of get behind. I may be wrong, because like, what the fuck do we know about Starfield?
Yeah, totally.
Nerds like me, like, who like spacey games, will be all over it. Like, I'll probably buy it, play it for about like 20 hours, and then never play it again because it's just too much, too big. There's too much going on. But
maybe
so the Bethesda effect.
Yeah, the Bethesda effect.
I think the key thing for me with Starfield, when it comes to knowing any of that stuff, whether it's for me or for anyone else, is that when June rolls around in 4 months' time, and we get into E3 season and Bethesda have some kind of stream or showcase, and they show us gameplay for the first time, hopefully, fingers crossed, does it look like Fallout and Elder Scrolls? For me, it's as simple as that. Does it look like that? Does it have that same control scheme? Is it those same fundamentals? And if it is, this becomes far more of a known quantity, and then it's just about the set dressing and the trimmings that will determine the other variables that we're discussing. If it's something completely new, that's the thing that's going to really fascinate me and make those questions harder to answer.
Do you know what you'll see? The gameplay, I can already tell you exactly what you'll see, right? It'll be amazing. It will look fantastic. There'll be a ship flying through the atmosphere of a planet. It will rotate. It will come down, landing gear extend. The back of the ship will drop down like a little loading hatch, and then a character will walk out of the smoke and like walk down the little thing. And all of us will be so excited about how amazing this game is going to be. Then it will be cut to first-person view of you come down the steps. Some NPC will run up to you like this with their eyes doing this. And then a little dialogue box will appear underneath you going like, I don't even know, are you here to drop off my package? And then it'll be just pure jank.
Hey,
like,
are you a girl or a boy? Or maybe something else. Like,
and people will love it and they will lose their minds over it. And it will be a great game, but I feel like it will be right at home with it. And it's not a good thing necessarily.
Yeah, but it's also not necessarily a bad thing. Like,
it's not necessarily a bad thing either.
There is comfort in that kind of like Bethesda style of fucking RPG that, like, you know.
Yeah. Also, like, if you pretend 76 never happened, it'll be like 7 years since they've done one of these, right?
Yeah,
So like that's enough time to make stuff happen, right?
Oh my God.
Am I crazy?
I think about this regularly. One of my favorite things from Fallout 76 is watching Steph and Jamie play on our live stream. And then at one point, they go up to two guys and they go like, right, we're going to attack them. And they just start shooting them. And one of them just doesn't even respond to Jamie shooting him right in the face. And Jamie just goes, oh my God, he's a fucking idiot. And I was like, that to me, there will be some of that in Starfield. There will be some of that in Starfield.
Guaranteed. Yeah. But you know what? We're going to we're going to gobble it up, fellas, because that's what we do.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Next, coming out in the 10th of Feb, Crossfire X, the campaign. Something which I'm pretty sure none of us will probably touch, even though it's absolutely massive.
Yeah, and Crossfire is coming to Game Pass on console, I believe, but not PC. But I don't know if that's the campaign or just the multiplayer.
I wasn't sure about that either. I was looking at that and thinking, hang on, like, what does that mean for... I don't know. The whole thing seems really strange.
Yeah. Because the multiplayer's already, obviously, it's been out for a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is just... so.
And it's like one of the largest fucking games in the world as well. That like...
Right. Yeah, huge.
Because it's all in the East, right?
Yes, exactly that, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, fucking hell, we've said it before, like how exciting it could be. The trailers look really good. It's obviously Respawn... Remedy. Sorry, Remedy.
Yeah.
And like, what is a first-person Remedy campaign like that? Like, it could be fucking exciting, right?
That's a very tantalizing question. The regrettable thing is that a lot of the noise I've heard so far, and take it with a pinch of salt, pre-release, is that the answer to the question is, what does a Remedy FPS look like? Is shit, Chris. So,
well, we'll know on the 10th of Feb, which is like fucking soon.
It's not surprising though, is it? Like this, why do they get this? This happens every time. You get like a multiplayer online game, which is massive because it's a sandbox for players to play each other in, and the mechanics and the maps and everything work, and people enjoy them. And then they go, my God, it's massively popular. Let's make this into a campaign. It'll be massive. Like, no, it won't. It's good because it's what it is. You can't just then take that. If someone said to you there was a Fortnite campaign, like a first-person like Fortnite campaign coming out, do you think it's going to be one of the greatest campaigns? Like, no, it's going to be terrible. Like, of course it is. Like, what are you talking about?
I think it's purely the fact that Remedy were involved in a weird kind of move. It's like, oh, what is this? And what else is interesting is that, like, we got to remember, like, pre-Control, like, Remedy wasn't, like, they'd done Quantum Break, which was not great. It wasn't bad either, but it wasn't great. And if this had come out after that, it probably would have been a bit of a shrug. But coming out after critically acclaimed Control, it's kind of like, oh, like Remedy's back on the up. Like, what can they produce here?
Then anything
it's fascinating.
Anything that I really liked about Control is nothing that I would think would work in like a first-person shooter kind of.
I don't know. I don't know if perspective is enough to make me change my mind on what that studio is capable of.
Not perspective, like the if I'm thinking about all the first-person shooters I've played and the way those games function, like none of the things I liked about Control, like the environments, the eeriness, the storytelling, the layouts of like the maze, all that sort of, like those elements were my favorite elements. I don't think. Do you know what was really cool? The shooting, how snappy that game felt, the way enemy attacked you, like all that stuff was the worst stuff.
I thought the shooting was cool.
I thought didn't really like it, but I love the game. I thought the game was great on the whole. But now if you said to me, they're almost taking all the things I thought were the worst elements of Control, putting them in a first-person shooter.
But maybe that's where this partnership on paper seemed like it would have done well, right? Whereby,
maybe,
hey, Crossfire X as an FPS, they've got it nailed down because they've got the gun feel.
They know
they've
exactly
got the gunplay.
Right.
It's established already. And then it's like, hey, Remedy, come and do a fucking campaign for us. Like the story, the elements, the beats, like all of that stuff.
I must admit, I don't even know that. I know no lore about Crossfire X at all. Like, I've got no idea about any of that.
Because you're in the West.
No one knows. It's South Korean Counter-Strike, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like okay, right. Yeah. Okay, weird, because Remedy, like, if I think of Remedy, like you say, Quantum Break and Control, I always think of, like, not straight shooters.
Yeah.
In that sense, like, even with the story side.
And it's even weirder, like, I don't know if you remember the kind of campaign, but it is almost like Counter-Strike meets almost like Metal Gear Solid-ish kind of stuff. Like it's bizarre. It's weird, and I'd love to kind of just unpack what all of that is.
Okay. Not long to go.
No, not long to go at all. Yeah.
Fair. A release date we don't know about from the people who bought you Arc 1. It's Arc 2. Exciting.
Vin Diesel too?
Vin Diesel too.
Why is Vin Diesel in this? It's fucking strange.
Do you know what though? You've in asking that question, you've kind of answered it for me, because the only reason we're talking about this is because Vin Diesel was in the trailer. So there you go. That's why.
Well, you know what the thing is? Like, obviously, Ark is not our kind of game, even though it's got fucking Alex Jones written all over it.
I have tried to play it so many times, and do you know how far I get? I do some poops and I make myself some shit trousers, and then I get killed with someone with a stick, and then I don't play anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But this is what I'm saying. Like, we are not Ark people, but maybe if you're Ark people, Vin Diesel's a pretty fucking cool deal packaged in with Ark 2. Who the fuck knows?
Am I right in thinking they brought in Vin Diesel for some kind of a single player component?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. I'll be interested to see what that is, but yeah, the idea of Ark 2 being potentially just more Ark is like, well, that's the last thing I want right now. With all due respect to Ark people, as Chris said, we're not Ark people. So.
I think we're in a strange world now, where the campaigns are there for people who don't have the time or the inclination to play the multiplayer aspect of a game long enough to experience everything it has. So what you do is you make a campaign which forces you through the story to experience those things, so that maybe you stick with the multiplayer side of it for longer, and then you get more into it because you're like, oh, if I stick with it, there's more to this game. Because if you played Arc 1 like I did for about 8 hours and had a terrible time, then you're not going to try and go back and stick with it. Like, it's not going to happen.
But I also don't you also kind of feel that, like, from an outsider's perspective, at least, like non-Arc people looking in to the Arc, it's almost like what people like about that game is just like that deeply ingrained multiplayer aspect of, oh, I'm building this fucking fort and I'm fucking doing the survival shit, and here's a cage for my raptors and shit.
Dude, I don't know anything about Ark people. They are the strangest gamers out there. Like, when I started playing Ark, the first time I ever played it, I was like, oh, it's a oh god, I didn't remember the name of the book. It's a
Jurassic Park.
No, do you know what?
Castaway.
When I first played it, I thought it was more like one of a battle royale game, where it was the Hunger Games. That was it. It felt Hunger Games-y.
But there were dinosaurs in it.
But there were dinosaurs in it. I was like, Hunger Games with dinosaurs. And then now it's some Minecraft fort building, dinosaur riding, like you can tie people up and drag them back to your camp game. And I'm like, right. So, I mean, it's fucking weird. So it's very strange.
I think that's a good way of summing it up, to be fair.
Yeah. Arc 2, move on.
Something I do know a lot more about, because I played a lot more of it and makes more sense to me, is Overwatch. Not really sure why they're making Overwatch 2. I mean, I can kind of get why they're making Overwatch 2, because they made Overwatch 1 and people liked it. And then they can stick another name on it and they can sell more copies of that game. But,
Yeah, that's the Activision side.
Yeah, literally.
Right? You'd imagine. But yeah, Overwatch 2 is the thing that's happening this year in a way, because the Overwatch League is going to be playing on like a beta version of Overwatch 2.
Right, but does that mean...
Yeah.
The game won't be out this year for general consumers, or is that still possible too?
I think it's probably likely, but
right,
like, especially now with everything kind of changing over to Microsoft's hands, like, who the fuck knows anymore? But you'd imagine that, like, it would be kind of strange to have such a division of saying, hey, your Overwatch League, no, not the division, your Overwatch League, all your professionals are playing on Overwatch 2 and going through an entire like year season of it, where it's going to need updates and balances, etc., to then not release it to the public. It's just kind of fucking bizarre. And you can fucking take Diablo 4 into that as well, to a lesser degree, but like, it was Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, like, those were the things.
Unless the acquisition is like, now Microsoft are visiting the studios and popping their head around the corner and saying, hey, there's some money if you guys want it. And the Overwatch team and I guess the Diablo team are both like, do you actually like a bit of time and a bit of money? That sounds like a nice idea.
Yeah.
And maybe they both, stretch their legs a little bit. I don't know.
I would caution that I would say I could see Diablo 4 being pushed for that exact reason, but I'd imagine that Overwatch 2 is like, you got to get this over the line. Like, have as much money you want to and time to support it, but like, you guys just need to fucking launch this thing now.
It's been a couple of years, right, since it was announced. It's been a decent amount of time. So it's not like,
more than a decent amount of time at this stage.
It's been a long time announced for, what effectively is a PvE.
Yeah,
that is exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I've still never been sold on it. And even those PvE elements, every time I've tried to pay attention to everything they're saying and try to imagine myself playing, those game modes, I'm like, there's nothing here for me. Yeah. This feels like just another way for you to reuse some maps and some ideas that you used in timed events previously and stuff like that, and bring them all together to make something a little bit more permanent, a bit more concrete, but not engaging for me whatsoever.
Yeah,
they exist, right, so that people think it's different. Sure, that's it, right? The PvE is there because they're like, now it's not Overwatch 1.
Well, I guess the problem was if they continued with Overwatch 1, it's less like, if you got to think of it like Activision and not like Blizzard, right? They move on from Overwatch 1 because Overwatch 2 is a boxed version that you would buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas if they just update Overwatch 1, they're just updating something that everyone has.
But that's what I'm saying is like, surely they need to put something new in the box. They can't just like polish Overwatch 1, put it in a box and put a number 2 over it. So they're like, PvE?
I don't know. Like other companies have done that.
Well, maybe. Well, okay, fair enough. Yeah,
probably. It's just like, hey, here's a new fucking engine with the new fucking rework of everything. Like everything's changed, but it's effectively the same fucking game.
Yeah.
But you just get to buy it again.
Yeah, you've got to buy it. You've got to put the money back in.
Yeah. Anyway.
But hey, maybe Overwatch 2 will come out and I'll get back into Overwatch because it's probably been like 4 or 5 years since I've played Overwatch. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a very long time.
Yeah, same.
Gran Turismo 7, though.
Oh, baby.
Is coming out on the 4th of March, and we do know that. And another game that I haven't played a Gran Turismo game for probably longer than I haven't played an Overwatch game. So
yeah, same. I'm not sure I've played a Gran Turismo game with any sort of like oomph or gusto since maybe Gran Turismo 3 on the PlayStation 2.
Or
because somehow
A-Spec.
Yeah, GT3 A-Spec. Because somehow Gran Turismo's 4, 5, 6 and Sport all passed me by in one way or another, which I largely attribute to my, and I apologise if this is a precursor for my excitement for Gran Turismo 7, but I attribute that to my lack of interest in basically racing simulation games nowadays. And I think I've realised because of the directions that series like Forza Horizon and even to a certain extent like Need for Speed have gone, I'm far more keen on the slightly more open-ended, slightly more fun-driven driving experiences that are out there.
Stuff,
yeah. And I got to say, watching the Gran Turismo 7 State of Play that streamed last night at the time of recording, I'm like, these guys love cars, they love tracks, they love really, high-fidelity visuals, and I don't really love any of the things that they love. Like, they kind of feel like they're speaking a different language to me. And I'm not talking about Japanese. I'm talking about the language of cars. Because my car language is kind of like, can I do a really cool drift and go 250 miles an hour? Whereas theirs is like, you listen to some of the language in that State of Play, it's like, cars are a reflection of the environment, and that's like, they made some weird speech about how ray tracing was important because cars reflect the environment around them, but it was on a metaphorical level, not just a literal one. Right, and I was like, you guys are fucking crazy, and I love it, but someone else is going to buy this game other than me.
They need to say something to fill out a half-hour fucking State of Play on a car game. Like there's not much you need to do to sell people. Yeah, exactly. It's like either you're in it or you're not. Like,
do you like cars? Do you like cars that look pretty? Gran Turismo 7.
Yeah, and like I'm watching this thing thinking the only thing that could get it hooked into me is some kind of really exciting career mode, basically, or like with really cool progression mechanics. And I'm watching their UI stuff, and bless them, they have tried, but it's like you can go to the Gran Turismo Cafe, where this lady in visual novel style will have dialogue with you, and you'll get a gold license and unlock a Ford Escort. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you got to remember, guys, the last time I played a racing game, I like spun a wheel and won a fucking Hummer and did fucking 50,000 donuts in a row in it, knocked over 300 cactuses, and it gave me enough points to do another fucking super wheel spin. And now you're trying to make me go to the Gran Turismo Cafe? Like,
it reminds me a little bit of like where every year when people buy the new Formula One game, because it's almost like it's almost like FIFA. Everything gets a bit of a polish. They move around the rosters. New stuff pops in, but it's basically exactly the same game. And I'm thinking with Gran Turismo, it's one of those where it's just, hey, new engine, or the engine's been polished, or these cars look better, or we've got ray tracing.
Yeah.
But it's this, and we've got a few new cars that were released or are coming out, in the next sort of year, couple of years. But then they go, we've got all the oldies in there as well, so you can enjoy looking at them, and you can do photo modes, and you can do this, and you can do that. But then come to play it, and it's just bloody boring, isn't it?
It's not boring. It's quality.
It is boring. It's so boring.
So wait, Chris,
so boring.
Is this confirmation you're going to be our resident GT expert this year? Can we have that in writing?
It could be. It could be. 4th of March, I'll be fucking balls deep in Elden Ring.
True, actually, true.
So who knows? But like, oh man, like the thing about Gran Turismo has always been that, like, it's always been the very technical kind of racing sim, right? Like, whereas everything else is like either arcadey or kind of straddles the line or tries. Gran Turismo is like the pure breed, fucking as technical as you can get, and I fucking love that. I really do. Do I have time in my life these days? I don't know. Like, I remember playing GTA 3 A-Spec, unlocking the fastest car by doing the Nürburgring 24-hour challenge.
Oh, no.
I did it, dude. And I fucking got the fastest car, which was fucking great. And, I'd love to... Would I love to do something like that?
Again?
No, I'd love to do it, but I just don't know if I can. But I would definitely pick it up for the odd race here and there. Like, as stupid as it is to pay that amount of money, I would do it. I would definitely do it.
I'll give you this, right? GTA, I shouldn't call it GTA. Gran Turismo is a fun...
Yeah, there's no A in Gran Turismo.
No. It's a fun game to play if you go with a mate and you sit down and you do like couch co-op, and the guy, do you want to do a race? And like, oh, hell yeah. And you go and you can pick a cool car that you like and you can race each other. Like, that is a cool element of it. But the idea of sitting down and just relentlessly playing that game again and again and again and again, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah. And the problem is, because it's so technical, like, you have to fucking play that game to get to grips with it, right? Like, like you can't launch up Gran Turismo. Like, let's say, I don't know how it's going to have it set up, but let's say you just go like a free mode, and you go to like the most powerful fucking cars on the planet. You are not going to be able to race those cars because you haven't figured out the finesse of how Gran Turismo 7 operates.
Like, if you got in a real supercar and tried to just drive it.
Exactly. Like there's a reason in Gran Turismo where they start you off with like Jamie says, like a fucking Ford Escort, because like you've got to start off slow and figure out like how the game is set up, and then and then they'll give you like, let's say, like a fucking, I don't know, like a Nissan 370Z, and you fucking go from there, and they'll pop you in a Supra, and you fucking go from there, and then they'll pop you into like a fucking Aston Martin fucking Valkyrie or whatever it is. Like, like that's the progression you have to do. You can't just jump into like a fucking... Anyway, Gran Turismo. Looking forward to it. 4th of March, fellas. But yeah, 4th of March. Elden Ring. Like, Gran Turismo to me is like more mid of the year, maybe end of the year kind of game. Like, pick it up and fucking smash it. It would be cool.
Fair enough. From reality in super high fidelity to the opposite, because Hogwarts Legacy, the height of fantasy, is supposed to be coming out this year, after already being bumped. I believe it was supposed to come out last year, right? Originally.
Yes.
Did they ever say?
I remember there being some kind of... I can see like the letter that they tweeted now, the kind of the big message to our fans thing. Like, I can see it written down on a piece of old paper.
I do believe it was supposed to come out last year.
But didn't they do that, and it was just odd because they had never mentioned when it was going to come on? It's like,
I think you're right. I think it never had a firm date, and then they like wrote a thing to basically be like, "Hey guys, this is not coming out in 2021." Just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
But I think someone from Warner Brothers did something the other day, didn't they? Where they basically confirmed that this and another game were still on track to come out this year.
Yes.
And they didn't mention Suicide Squad, which then led to Jason Schreier and Bloomberg's report to confirm that would not be out this year.
Yeah. But yeah, man, like, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but this game looks cool. And I know, like, there's so many fucking Harry Potter fans. Like, they'll go absolutely fucking mental for this.
I've kind of been forced to be a bit Harry Potter fan. Not a fan, but like my wife really took. So I've been to the Harry Potter studio tour.
Yeah, it's a cool tour.
I've done that, and I've
did you drink the butterbeer?
Of course, drank the butterbeer,
Fucking
and
delicious.
I've seen all of the films like at least twice. I think as well.
Jesus, okay.
Wow.
So I don't
you.
mind it. Like I don't mind it, but it's not something I'm like super into. So I mean, is it something I'm going to buy? No. I've got a 5-year-old, and if he starts getting into it, then I'm sure we'll pick it up, and maybe I'll see it like.
Yeah, fuck it. Watch those movies for a third time. Why not?
But no, I mean, apart from that, like, it looks cool though. Like, it's one of those where I think they could do quite a lot with it. It looks like a game where obviously they can kind of, if you take that lore and you take that world and you sort of do some really cool, fun things with it. Yeah, you could have a hell of a lot of fun with it. I imagine just flying around Hogwarts on a broom and playing Quidditch and doing all that sort of stuff. I could be into that sort of stuff. I could be into that, doing some battling with wands. But I just, I get the feeling it's not going to be that at all. It's going to be quite a linear, like, more restrictive experience. But I don't know.
I think it's meant to be a lot more open.
Yeah, the vibe I've got, and I think the messaging so far has been that it's quite open-ended.
Oh yeah, sure. Which I would love it if it is that, but I don't know. I kind of worry that when they say that sort of stuff, it's going to be it's still open-ended. Like, how open-ended is it going to? Like, do you know what I mean? You want it to be a completely free, open world, and is it? I don't know if it's going to be that.
I mean, it's still Hogwarts at the end of the day, right? Like, that's the issue you've got with quote-unquote open world.
Yeah, it's hub then, right? It's hub. But, man, the last time I played a Harry Potter game was fucking the first Harry Potter on PS1. Was it PS1 or PS2? It's like...
No, it was PS1, yeah. That's a classic.
Yeah, that was the last one I played. And
I always remember... Was that the one that had the trailer that came out right about when The Matrix 2 was out? That be about the same sort of time? Because that was when I remember the trailer being on TV for a Harry Potter game, and it really reminded me of the Agent Smith fight with Neo. The CGI was about on par.
I don't think the timing works out there.
Yeah, that sounds more like Chamber of Secrets territory, or even Azkaban.
Yeah, but here's something interesting about my relationship with Harry Potter. Like, I enjoyed the movies. I hadn't read the books. And then the very final book came out, and my parents bought it for me it was either for Christmas or my birthday. And I was like, you got me the last book in this fucking series. Like, what am I meant to do now? So I went and fucking bought all the other books. I was like, this is the most annoying present I've ever received. Because not only did it cost me a buttload of money to buy all these fucking books, also fucking sunk ages of my time reading all the books. I enjoyed it, sure, but like it felt almost like forced upon me.
Yeah, I don't even have that. I mean, I stopped reading the books at the 3rd, and I stopped watching the films at the 4th.
Wow. Okay.
And I've never gone back to Harry Potter in any way because no one in my life has ever been into Harry Potter in any kind of significant way. And so this is one of those weird ones where I respect Harry Potter and what it is, and I think there are some elements of the Harry Potter formula that could translate into a video game that is fun to play, and I will keep an astute eye on Hogwarts Legacy. But this is one of those ones where I'm like, I'm more happy it's happening for other people than for me.
Yeah, I get that.
That's fair. I was just trying to find a date for it. Someone's apparently said there's a new release date has been leaked for it that came out yesterday. So in the background, I'm going to try and see if I can hear when this
an actual a solid release date, like a number,
a number.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
Okay, I'll believe it when I hear it.
Okay. It's probably just going to be like fucking Emma Watson going, "It's Leviosa."
Probably, but from one fancy world that everyone loves to another one, because Jedi Fallen Order, the second, is supposed to come out this
I'd love it
if
they call it that. Jedi Fallen Order, the second.
That would be cool, right?
I think they changed the Fallen Order, right? It becomes Star Wars Jedi something else.
I think that was the rumor about it, yeah.
Because isn't it Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So it's now going to be Star Wars : something else.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
The sequels is Fallen Order, but yeah, I got to finish that fucking game, fellas, before this.
I have the same issue. Exactly the same issue.
I was amazed when Josie said he hadn't finished it. Like, what have you been doing for like 3 years?
I think the issue with that with Fallen Order was it was like a weird mix between almost like Dark Souls-y sort of game where and I didn't really want to do that. I was like, okay, this isn't exactly what I was thinking this game would feel like. And I think I'd done a couple of boss fights and there's a thing about Dark Souls games that really bugs me, and everyone's going to go who loves games like that, who doesn't give a shit, who's going to be like, that's what those games do, which is when you reset or you reload a position or you go in one room and then come back into another, all of the enemies respawn, which I hate. I hate that so much.
Well, they only respawn if you
reload
rest at the thing to redo your health.
Exactly. So you get your health back and then all the fucking enemies back. And that's something that I've never liked.
Yeah.
And so there's little things
fair.
like that, the boss fights, and it was a chore to play, even though I was enjoying the combat and I was kind of getting a feel for the game.
Man.
And especially the platforming side of it and a lot of that stuff was wicked.
You know what killed me for it was playing it on stream and then thinking to myself, oh, I have to go back now and do everything that we've just done.
Right.
When I played it separately on my own. But then also I remember when we played it on stream and we were stuck in that one fucking temple for like half of the stream. It was insane. And then it's like, oh, the solution is just like, no, the game was glitching out on us or something and we just couldn't do.
We were doing
we knew what we
right.
needed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But like it's a good game. It's a fun game and cool story and it looks good. And Respawn, not Remedy, Respawn are doing two other two other Star Wars games. I think one is an RTS and one is an FPS.
That's correct, yeah.
So that is cool, man. Like, if anyone's going to make like good Star Wars games, let it be fucking Respawn, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that, should we move on to the next ones? We've got Gotham.
Yeah.
Sorry, at the back of that, the video that I was listening to where it was trying to say, give us a date for Hogwarts Legacy, and the title was bullshit.
Hang on. You saw a clickbait title claiming to have a Hogwarts Legacy release date that hadn't leaked anywhere else on the internet, and you're like, do you know what? I'm gonna, flick through this probably. Let me guess, over 8-minute long video to see if they say the release date.
No. I was scanning through the comments to see because I thought somebody would say, oh, it's this date, like blah blah blah. So I was trying to scan through and read.
If only there was a thumbs down button, and you could have just glanced at it and be like,
if only you were sharing this podcast with someone who refreshes the game leaks and rumors subreddit 5 times a day.
It's not all on there, mate. You're too obsessed with your Reddits. This is what I've told you this before. You're Mr. Reddit. You're too obsessed. If it's not on Reddit, it doesn't exist.
Oh God.
What? And if it's on YouTube, it does? You're just getting lied to.
I didn't go to that because it was on YouTube. I found a link on the Tinternets in general, and it was linked to a YouTube video where someone said that there was an interview with someone who was revealed a date for it.
The thing with leaks is that you only need to follow certain subreddits and certain people on Twitter before, trust me, Jonesy, you know everything that's happening that's worth knowing.
Yeah.
Mate, you should tell the people that got the Switch wrong then, because they had no idea.
Yeah. Shit does like fucking slip through the cracks, right?
Nah, I mean,
anyway,
you're lucky we're on a tight schedule because I'd fight you on that.
Gotham Knights is still supposed to be coming out this year, despite the fact, of course, that Suicide Squad has now been bumped from this list because Suicide Squad is not going to be dropping in 2022, which is kind of weird because we've seen more of Suicide Squad, I think, up to this point than we've seen of Gotham Knights. But
we haven't, right? Like, I think if you take the first Gotham Knights thing, we probably would have seen more. Because the only thing we saw with the Suicide Squad are like effectively 2 cinematics. The last one was meant to be like in-engine. Yes. But it wasn't necessarily like, hey, here's the HUD and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We did see that in Gotham Knights. Sure, it might have changed like a complete 180, but it was still there.
I'm trying to think the last thing we saw for Gotham Knights, was that the...
No, it was a story trailer that they did at the Warner Brothers thing at the end of summer, early winter.
It was the
just last year.
Court of Owls.
Yeah, it was all the Court of Owls trailer.
Right.
And again, like, it's just a very kind of confusing thing for me, where I don't know how we'd receded over the course of that year to the point where we had like a full-on gameplay demo one year and a story trailer the next with no release date in sight. Like,
and Gotham Knights was pushed. I remember they pushed Gotham Knights. Maybe it was Gotham Knights. Yeah.
Well, Gotham Knights was meant to come out in like fall of 20. It had like a Christmas 2021 release date, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's such a weird place these days where so many things have been bumped and pushed and like released in weird ways, not really. It's been fucking weird, man. I can barely keep up with it. One thing I remember at the Gotham Knights, because Gotham Knights, the gameplay trailer, did seem to be more dated in some ways than what we've subsequently seen of Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad seems to be pushing the boundaries a bit more and doing more and, being a bit more exciting with what they were trying to do, whereas Gotham Knights kind of looks like a modern interpretation of an Arkham game in some respects, which I was maybe a bit more surprised at.
Yeah. It looked like they'd taken that Arkham formula and they'd applied it to sort of like a more of a 4-player co-op stylus, to match the fact that the different playable characters, the knights themselves. And then I remember there are a few more sort of like RPG style mechanics that can so easily be confused or conflated with live service style mechanics, like, a gear or loot systems and RPG sort of like health bars and numbers coming out of heads, as you put it, Jonesy. Yeah. And I remember some people were kind of put off by some of that stuff because it didn't feel very Arkham. Whereas I think, like, the ironic thing is that the easiest win for Gotham Knights, especially with Suicide Squad being something else entirely, is, like, just to make a slightly more modernized take on the Arkham formula that happens to be a 4-player co-op title with these new playable characters. And people are ready for that now because it's been 7 years since Arkham Knight.
That's mad. That is insane, isn't it? That's bloody ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think it's one issue, though, because it is 7 years. You don't necessarily want to feel it's too familiar because it'll feel dated. Like, even if it looks good and it plays well and it has a lot of those, multiple elements. Yeah,
but I just think that people are bored of the solution to dated action games being, we'll make it more RPG like. I think people are bored of that solution.
Yeah, they need to come up with something better and more exciting, which is ironic because then Suicide Squad would probably look like it was more going in that direction of doing something different. Although you've got a one, which is maybe why that's been bumped and Gotham Knights hasn't, because Gotham Knights is more of a known quantity, whereas Suicide Squad is not.
God,
maybe.
like
I mean, they're different games. I shouldn't really say that.
Yeah, but I get so confused as well. Like, so Suicide Squad is Rocksteady.
Yeah,
but then Gotham Knights is
Warner Brothers Montreal, who made Arkham Origins, which was the black sheep of the Arkham series.
You can just say the shit one; it's fine.
No, I'm going to say the black sheep. Like it's not a shit game; it's the black sheep.
Yeah, but so that's the point, right? Like, anyway,
the ugly duckling.
The ugly duckling.
Although I'm totally ready for another Arkham-esque game. However.
Dude, especially 4-player co-op. Let's fucking go.
I do wonder how
us three aren't allowed to say that anymore. Our track record for actually living up on our excitement for co-op games is so bad that we're not allowed to.
Yeah, but hold on, because you talk about Rainbow Six Extraction compared to like Gotham Knights. Like, we'll jump into Gotham Knights. Come on,
bro.
Will we?
Remember Back 4 Blood? One of your top 2 games of the year. We played it together once.
One time.
Oh, we played it more than one time.
No, we did play it more than once.
Those were betas now.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, technically,
doesn't matter. But
at release, we played it once.
But that's more like, hey, that's the experience. It's that pure online co-op experience. Whereas Gotham Knights is like, it's a different beast entirely because it's all story based, and obviously we've got the love for the Arkham series, etc.
Again, bro, just like its release date, I'll believe it when I see it.
Also, how much love are people going to have for Batman when the Batman comes out and it's pretty crap? Like, people still going to...
Okay, Jonesy, yeah, very good.
Alex Jones.
Like, you had to get it in there, yeah.
Oh,
careful, Jonesy, careful, Jonesy.
Maybe Batman's not so great.
You might be eating those words. We might be eating ours. Who the fuck knows?
We got a little bit more information than we know about Gotham Knights because Ghostwire Tokyo actually had themselves a little PlayStation Direct just, 3 hours ago about that at this point, or 2 hours ago?
Yeah.
So the release date for that is
cheeky state of play.
Indeed. March 25th, Ghostwire Tokyo is coming out. The most VR-looking non-VR game that I think I've seen in a long time. But yeah, Jamie, you were saying that you think this game looks pretty interesting.
Interesting is a good word for it. I'm glad that's what you set me up with. Like, this has been such a strange thing, right? Because this was the game that was being shopped around at the same time as Deathloop in terms of it's a Bethesda published title that's coming exclusively, at least for now, to the PlayStation. And then there was this weird thing where Deathloop kept getting more and more trailers and looking more and more fleshed out, and Ghostwire Tokyo would kind of pop its head up every now and then, and like you said, Jonesy, looked distinctly like this strange non-VR VR experience where it just seemed to be like this guy walking down narrow alleyways in some Japanese city doing like hand gestures, throwing up gang signs,
literally
basically.
Tokyo, but it's in the name.
No, but I'm saying what the trailer looked like. Yeah, fine.
Okay, yeah.
And he was just like throwing up gang signs and doing, sign language, and weird headless schoolgirls would blow up in front of him. Like what's the EDL or whatever it's called? That's something different actually. EDL.
Jeez.
But
it totally looks like a VR game though, because the way that it's set up and the hand movements, I was convinced when I first saw it that you were going to have to do those movements with your hands.
Do you know what it looked like? It looked like a Kinect game where you'd have to do those hand movements.
You've got to move it. It would have a shadow on the screen, and you have to like go into the position to do the thing.
I've got to say though, after this, what was essentially just a 10-minute long sort of gameplay trailer and overview, it makes more sense, but still doesn't make that much sense. There's still an element of it is like, I can't imagine someone playing this video game. This doesn't look like a video game that like flows from one thing to another yet. But I admire its aesthetic. I admire that it's trying to do something unconventional with a first-person action adventure, even an open-world first-person action adventure game. I like the enemy designs. I like the world design. I think some of the visuals are a little bit ropey in terms of their actual fidelity, but it's something unique. I was saying to Chris before we started recording.
But it's a small studio as well. Like, it's not...
It is, yeah.
Like, what is Tango Works?
Yeah, Tango Game, the Evil Within team.
Yeah.
I was saying to you, Chris, like before, that it reminded me of Killer 7 in the same way Killer 7 had, like, FPS elements, but it just looked bizarre in the way it did them.
Yeah, a bit disjointed, right? But kind of owning it.
Yeah. And, I'm fascinated. And there is also a part of me that worried that, like, this game rears its head now and is out next month. That feels weird in this current climate. Like, we talk about all these games that, like, we all agree are going to be delayed and we don't know much about. And it's like, this game's out next month. Here's your first look at it. Like, what? We just talked about how we saw Arkham Knight gameplay, like, Gotham Knights gameplay 18 months ago, and we don't know if it's going to come out this year. Like, how back... I admire
quite
it,
like
but
that,
it's
though,
weird.
This feels more like old school. Hey, look, we've gone away. We've made a game. It's our own thing. It's very different, and we've done it. We've polished it. It looks great for what it is, and it's going to come out. Like, there's no messing around. It is what it is. Some people will love it. Some people won't. And happy day.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like I can see this being a cult hit game.
Written all over it, dude.
Yeah, and I don't know what that means for kind of broad appeal, but I think
I can tell you what it means, Jamie. It means you wait until it stops being a PlayStation exclusive.
Oh, yeah.
And then you pick it up on Games Pass.
Because even that exclusivity feels weird. Like, it shows you how much the industry has moved in such a short amount of time that this timed exclusivity on these two Bethesda titles just doesn't feel that relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Like, PlayStation fans aren't boasting about it. Xbox fans aren't, like, saying, oh, it will come back to Game Pass in a year's time. Like,
it's almost like the forgotten son, right?
Yeah. Which is maybe why it's squeaking out a month after it's, re-revealed.
But it's got to be tricky because, it's a new thing. It's an unknown quantity. But, it is easy. Known things and known quantities. And what do you get when you put Lego and Star Wars together? You get Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which comes out on April the 5th.
Which chef's kiss.
I am properly looking forward to this, which is weird. I don't know why. It must be because I've got kids. And I love the idea of a current gen... or next gen, however you want to put it, Lego Star Wars game, because I think that's just going to look tasty and play very well.
And it did look good. Like, I don't think there's much to talk about it. It's like Lego Star Wars, and they're always a fun time. Like, sure.
That's literally about all you can. Have you seen Star Wars? Have you played Lego games? Put those two things together in your brain, and that's what it's exactly. Going to be.
Obviously, there was the controversy about Traveler's Tales games having like excessive crunch and the troubled kind of development on this. But hey, it's coming out. It looks good. You shouldn't boycott the game on the practices of management, because all you're doing really is punishing the people that did put in all those hours and did all that crunch. Like,
Yeah.
Support them, like play the fucking game if you think it looks good. Like
You absolutely should. That is a weird one though, because if you wanted to say something to the company, then not buying it would say more than buying it and enjoying it. But I get what you mean.
Yeah, but in reality, in a business sense, all you're saying to the company is, "Oh, gee, we need to make a lot of people redundant now. This game did not sell."
That's very, very true. But no, it looks fantastic. Hopefully, it hasn't been too horrendous for people. And at least like with whistleblowers and stuff, about the crunch and what's gone on, and so they can't maybe get away with it as easily in the future. But we say that every time it happens, so maybe it will. Who knows? A game that actually has now released and has been sort of a pleasant surprise for a lot of people, because there was a lot of worry about it, is Pokemon Legends Arceus, which came out on the 28th of January.
The second fastest selling Switch game after Animal Crossing.
But this is never surprising. Any main Switch game is going to sell like goddamn hotcakes. And when it's a Pokemon game, I'm even less surprised. I have managed, guys, for like a week to not have to buy this. I'm amazed. I don't think I'm going to last much longer. Someone in my household is going to do something horrible to me, and I'm just going to have to give in and buy it, I'm sure. But yeah, I've managed it this long.
I'm in the same boat and I live alone, so figure that one out.
Yeah, well, I guess, Jamie, you're lucky, right? Because you're playing the other previous Pokemon game.
Playing the other Pokemon game that came out fucking 3 months ago. So yeah. But I'm you know what? I'm glad that some of the reservations actually, let me be careful what I say here. I think some of the reservations I had prior to release have proved to be justified, and I think have been shared by people who have played the game. In some cases, even more so to the people who have played the game to completion. But I'm also glad that some of the reservations I have been proved wrong, and that generally speaking, people have enjoyed this and accepted it and embraced it as a kind of a new look and a new approach for a familiar franchise, but also a familiar style of game. But there is still an element of me that just looks at this game, and every time I look at it, I'm like, that game looks ugly as fuck. And I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, I'm sure by next week I'll probably be able to give you a rundown, because I'm probably be made to buy it.
Yeah, I thought we were going to pull some crazy move like when you secretly bought Animal Crossing and then pulled the rug from under us on the podcast. I thought you were going to do one of those maybe.
Yeah, I've 30 hours deep into Animal Crossing.
I played so much Animal Crossing, it's ridiculous. Another game which comes out very soon, the 8th of February, is Shifu, or Sifu, I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it, which we already talked about on the was it the pre-game we talked about it, where we said that it was being made by go check that out, see what we were talking about behind the scenes on about Shifu. This is one that I think we're all excited to play, to look at. I know, Chris, you are especially excited about this.
Yes, I do have a code for it, a preview code, but it doesn't activate until Sunday, I believe.
Brutal.
But that means that if stars align and I have time in the evening, that I will be streaming it. So,
you have to get on that.
I know I have to. I know, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's just kind of it seems like that perfect power fantasy of almost like a John Wick aesthetic, with a lot of kind of the neon going on there, but then with that kung fu aspect to it. It just looks cool, man. I just hope. The worry with games like that, where it looks so fucking cool and fluid, is how does that translate to me holding a controller and making it look that cool and flashy?
I totally get. Yeah, absolutely.
You put the controller in my hand, he's gonna look like a fucking 5-year-old doing karate.
Or does he look too good because you're barely in control of what he's doing? And then that's almost worse.
No, I think that I was actually going to make the opposite point. Just I think other developers have proved in the past, and one of them we've already talked about tonight, that almost doesn't happen, because my head goes to Rocksteady and Arkham, where they made pressing X over and over again made look like the most cool, kick-ass, fluid shit ever. And input-wise, I wasn't doing anything that special. I had to counter every now and then, but Sifu will be far more complex than Arkham. And if they manage to get that fluidity, and it's that flow between animations and inputs and that's what they really need to nail. And so much of the preview footage has looked so encouraging that I hope that they pull that off.
But you say pushing X. I think Arkham nailed it. Like that.
That's the point I'm
that's
making.
what he's saying. Yeah.
No, but you're saying that you think that it was easy, you barely had to do anything, and you could make it look great. But I think they nailed the balance of input versus like how cool it would look versus like what you had to do. Like you could still just fight. You could, like you said, you could just hit X, but you could still master the fighting in a way that made you feel like a complete badass. It never felt too easy, but it never felt too difficult. Whereas I think some games,
Yes, I agree.
Some games go the too easy route as well, where they like it's just.
I was more trying to make the argument that like, and maybe I'm wrong on this. You guys could disagree, but I don't think there is such a thing as a game that is too easy to play relative to how cool it looks on screen. Like, because even in quick time events where I'm not doing anything, like fucking. You know, you go back to like Asura's Wrath or something like that, like quick time event in the game. Like, if I'm doing cool shit on screen and not doing much with my controller, I'll live with it. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's that action on screen that I'm here for. That's why I've never complained about quick time events, but I know I'm in the minority there.
Fair enough. Next up, we've got Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which comes out on March 25th. I really want to play this, and I don't know why.
Because it looks like fun. Like, it looks like pure distilled fun, but you know,
maybe
sorry.
Maybe the problem is it looks like pure distilled fun, and then I'm convinced it's not actually going to be, but it looks like it is. If that makes sense.
It's kind of the worry, right?
Yeah. When it's come to the trailers for this game, and the kind of to a certain extent the gameplay for this game, and how I've tried to like gauge my excitement for it, and how much fun I think I'm going to have it. The problem I keep coming back to time and time again is the first two words of the title.
Tiny Tina. You're not going to resonate with the humor.
She's ruining everything for me right now. She's ruining everything for me right now.
Fair enough.
She's a side character at best.
She's
a tolerable,
PlayStation
a barely
Plus.
tolerable. Well, I mean, yeah, this month, yeah. So I don't know. I want to have fun with it, but then like that was what I don't know. That was what a lot of people said about Borderlands 3, and a lot of people fell off Borderlands 3 really hard. Like Borderlands 3 was a perfect like recipe for it's there to for people to have fun with it, and like I know that neither of you really did.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to change by having Tiny Tina voiceover narrating every stupid fucking thing you do.
But
it's going to get worse.
For me, it's a question of like how much can you take the Borderlands formula and like shove it into this like more traditional kind of fantasy RPG style stuff, like with melee weapons and spells and shit. Like, you know, like I don't know.
I don't. For me, it's that thing of I like Borderlands. I like what Borderlands trying to do, but then every time I try and play a Borderlands game now, even like 3, if I tried to go and pick up 3, I know that I would get bored of it super quickly. But the idea that you could take that IP and you could push it in a slightly different direction that maybe will grab me again in a different way. So I'm kind of hoping that happens with this. It's something I'm definitely tempted with. I don't
March
know
25th.
if I will pick it up.
So that's Greek Independence Day.
It's rough timing again because it's it's off the back of February. It's off the back of all the sort of the big releases.
True.
Long ass
yeah,
games.
Man. I'll lay it out straight for you fellas. Like, it's going to take me. I'm going to be stuck in Elden Ring for a very long time. Like, I'm just not going to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's so many other cool things to play. I'm like, I want to play Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
I mean,
realistically, am I going to sack off one of those other games to play that? Probably.
Sekiro's not even open world, and you've been playing it for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just have to when Chris said I'm going to be playing Elden Ring for quite a while. Yeah, didn't consider it's actually going to be 5 years before he starts doing it. Chris is going to be 40 before he finishes Elden Ring.
It's possible, fellas. It's possible.
It happens.
I mean, I still haven't
happens.
finished Sekiro. No, but like I don't know. Sekiro is like it's one of those things. I think I've proved that I could do it. Like, I mean, I took a break from Sekiro to finish Dark Souls. Like, come on.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, true.
Fair play.
And that one only took like a year or so, right?
Half a year, about. But to be fair, that was only playing on stream, and like that was like once a week.
Right. And Elden Ring, you've already said, will be an off-stream game for you as well.
And I'm doing that because of what happened with Dark Souls.
Yeah. Fair play. So maybe you'll get be able to chunk it away a lot more quickly than you did with Dark Souls. A game that I don't think any of us will be chunking away because I think it's going to be a mess. It's going to not be what everyone thinks it is, and it's just going to be like a WTF game. Is Forspoken.
I did not expect that from you, Jones.
Yeah, I thought you were the Forspoken guy.
It feels like you flipped it over there.
I haven't. No, I haven't flipped it at all.
Jonesy's taken all his hype for Forspoken and transferred it into Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So that's what's going on.
The problem with Forspoken, I still have the same issue with Forspoken, is it looks fantastic. It looks like it could be incredible, but at the same time, it just looks like it's not a game, and they've just sort of grouped together and piled together a whole load of cool shit, and it's just going to be a complete mess. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think it's going to come out this year. I think the best thing will happen is if Forspoken gets bumped to like 2024.
Oh, bro.
From a release date of May 24th, you think it's going to be bumped to the next year?
I couldn't disagree more. I think that release date is sticking hard.
Fair play. What do you think? Do you think it's going to be like good when it comes out, and it's going to be it's going to be the game that I think? Because when we first saw it, I was kind of like, "There's no way, man. How's this game coming out when they reckon it like next year or whatever?" It looks like it's going to be some epic, Unity 5 level, like crazy high fidelity
Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engine. Sorry, I've been playing around with Unity this week. Can you tell? Unreal Engine 5, kind of. It's one of those worry games we've talked about before. It's one of the worry games where it just looks insanely good, but is there a game there? And then they showed a lot of the other stuff where she's like running in the air, and I'm like, oh, so they don't know how to do traversal, so she can just run in the air. Like they've just left developer mode on and just stuck a character over the top of it. Like I don't know. I'm so worried about this game, but I hope it's good.
Yeah,
I think it's like because it's Square Enix, right? And I think it's they've obviously got multiple teams working on multiple games, and this is not Team A or B, so I don't fucking know what they're doing.
Oof, that's brutal.
But it's the truth. Like it's not Final Fantasy. It's not even A, B, or C. It's not Final Fantasy 7. It's not Final Fantasy 16, and it's not Final Fantasy 14. So
it's a weird mix of things.
Do you know what's weird about Forspoken for me is I played Final Fantasy 15 because it looked incredible, and I was super excited about jumping in and playing that game. And being a Westerner jumping in and playing that game, which is not the sort of game I would have played, before, it felt really weird. It didn't feel like a game I can just play like you would expect, like with an open world game.
To be fair, this kind of seems like they're trying to appeal more to a Western audience than an Eastern audience.
It does, but
this was the Gary Whitta and Amy Hennig thing.
Yeah,
from a story side.
And then from a gameplay side, I feel like it's gonna feel super Final Fantasy.
Can I give you my prediction? I think from a gameplay perspective, it's going to be very simple. I don't think there's going to be a lot of depth to it.
Okay.
This is just one where I find it really hard to make a prediction of any kind. Like I was a little bit with Jonesy where every trailer I was like, there's got to be more to this, there's got to be more to this, there's got to be more to this. Oh wait, there's not more to this. But that doesn't mean that, like, I think that traversal still looks fun. I think that combat still looks like it has the potential to be fun. I think that story setup and the premise they've established seems a little bit trite and a little bit boring, but I think that character could be interesting if she's fleshed out. Like, I don't even know, couldn't even guess how long this game is going to be. Like,
right, yeah.
You could tell me it was 8 hours. I could believe you. You tell me it was 80, and I'd believe you. Like, there's just too many ways in which the pendulum could swing on Forspoken for me to be confident in it, which is strange for a game that's coming out in 3 months. But I guess that's just the nature of the beast on that one. It's really weird.
I feel like I know as much about Forspoken as I do about DokeV, which is like not a lot.
See, like, no, I don't. I wouldn't.
I look at those two games and I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be.
DokeV is going to be the game of the generation, man.
It will be the game of the generation, but I still don't think I've got any idea what it's going to be like when I actually sit down and get my hands on a controller.
But at least Forspoken, there's like uncut gameplay out there of like full on, there's a HUD, there's everything. It's someone running around playing the video game. Like DokeV doesn't exist.
It's just a collective hallucination.
Yeah, DokeV was a Korean developer's acid trip turned into a fake video game.
A fake video game
developed by Hassan Karaman.
Yeah, literally.
All played and sold on the blockchain. Expect it soon. Avatar. Let's move on because Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is amazingly also going to be out this year, apparently. Which I find it hard to believe, just because anytime you attach Avatar to anything, I think like, yeah, whatever, never coming out. Like, it's just, I don't know why. It seems too big, too unwieldy, too like cutting edge, even though it's now a film which came out like donkey's years ago. But it's also such an unknown quantity, right? Like,
Well,
we still know nothing.
It's meant
about
to
this.
be like alongside the new films, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
But
Which is
like,
never good.
Do you guys think that, like, I remember when Avatar came out, it's like, oh, breaking all the records and everybody's seen it, whatever, and it's like, you enjoy it. It was an inenjoyable film by all means.
Oh, mate, it's
but
Fern Gully.
it is
They
Fern
just
Gully
ripped off
and it's
Fern Gully.
Dances with Wolves.
And
But it's like,
Dances with Wolves.
but it's almost like, looking back on it, it's like I don't know if you get this feeling, but I just get a bit cringe about it. It's like you tell me, oh, Ubisoft's making an Avatar game, and as good as it fucking looks, it's just like it's just a bit cringe. It's Avatar.
I still think it looks amazing, like, and the visuals behind Avatar at the time were incredible, and like a lot of the work they did. But I get what you mean. There is a bit cringe and is a bit weird.
But don't get me wrong. Like, I might be completely wrong here, because I look back at Game of Thrones, especially the last 2 seasons. It was like, it's a bit cringe, like
yeah.
That might, so it just very well might just be me.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is just you. I think definitely on the movie side of things, they've left it so long, and that film has been allowed to age in such a strange way. I think it's only natural to look back on the phenomenon that it was with a little bit of confusion. Like you said, Chris, I can't believe that was the film to watch. I can't remember. That is the single highest gross. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it took its place back from Endgame, right? As the single highest grossing film of all time.
Yes,
because they re-released it.
Re-released, yeah. But can I tell you what I think of when I think of Avatar? Like, looking back on it, is that
3D?
Is that dude that got like fucking 6 tattoos of the fucking blue chick from Avatar tattooed on his back. It's just like, that's what I associate with Avatar now. It's like fucking sweaty neckbeard dudes just kind of like fawning over fictional tall.
I just remember weird things like, hey, like, how many people, like, considering, again, it's the single highest grossing motion picture of all time, how many people know who Sam Worthington is nowadays? Like, if you were just to do a little gauge of the general public.
Yeah, he bit hard.
How many people remember Man on a Ledge? That's what I want to know.
Terminator Salvation, who was in as well.
Yeah, Terminator Salvation.
And they got him for all the Clash of the Titans and all that kind of again, he was Mr. 3D, basically. Like, studios realized they needed to make big 3D tentpole movies, and Sam Worthington was your guy, which is strange because he could never do an accent that wasn't Australian. Very odd. But I think it's totally natural to take some of that kind of awkwardness and uncertainty surrounding Avatar as just a product and as a franchise, and apply it to a video game, especially when Ubisoft's recent track record has been so shaky. But I still think there's something potentially interesting here. I just hope it's not as simple as Ubisoft applying their usual first-person open-world action-adventure trappings to Avatar's world and characters, because that would be a bizarre mishmash. And again, as with all things Ubisoft, like we discussed last week, I want them to take more risks and do more interesting things. And I hope Avatar is the start of that, rather than the end of like this very boring, recessive open world sort of phase that they're still currently in.
I kind of feel it's a little bit worrying about the whole Avatar game thing is the same with the films, right? It's like an unfulfilled promise. Like, if you're a film buff, you don't really like Avatar because it's not that great. But if you are a popcorn stuffing, like, borderline moviegoer who just doesn't really care, and you just go, we're just going to see whatever, the prospect of that coming into a game is not great. Because it's just like, what does that translate to? It's not going to be some incredible RPG. It's not going to be some incredible like action adventure game. It's just going to be like a bog standard run of the mill, exactly like you said, like Ubisoft just doing what they need to do to get a movie tie-in game out. Which
and that's it, like movie tie-in. But you know what, fellas, like it's already one down in my book. Like, it's lost points already because you cannot use the Wii balance board to fly those fucking birds. So
they've missed the trick, mate.
They've missed the trick, yeah.
Shocking.
Fuck 'em.
You can't plug your own head into the console to play. So they've lost me there. Want to take my hair and shove it in a slot.
Yeah, and have sex with your console.
Exactly.
What? I didn't do that.
Hey, what you guys shove and wear is your business, okay?
But from something we don't really know about, big blue ladies spinning around and fighting people. What about small non-blue ladies fighting?
Speaking of things I want to shove my hair in.
Bayonetta 3.
Isn't her outfit like made of her hair?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very Bayonetta. I think there's one point where she's like naked, but her hair like covers her body or some weird shit like that. I don't know.
I think it's like literally her clothing, like her hair morphs into her clothing or some shit.
Right.
I'm
Great.
pretty sure it was that, but whatever. Like,
do you want something shocking?
Bayonetta 3 is fucking batshit crazy anyway. So
I've never played a Bayonetta game.
Fun, dude.
That's not that. You know what? That's not that crazy considering like the first one was sort of well received, but like if it wasn't your style, if it wasn't your genre, then you wouldn't have gone for it. And the second one felt like it was even better received, but wasn't it a Wii U exclusive until it got ported to the Switch?
So Chris is the only person who played.
And now this one is a Switch
one.
exclusive. I'm going to fact check that, but I think Bayonetta 2 was only on the Wii U.
Right.
I might be wrong.
Possible.
It was a Wii U game, and it's been ported to Switch, but I don't know. Like, it seems ironic. Like, it seems like a bit unfair to say, considering we've just established that Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U title. But one of the most frustrating things I can say about Bayo 3 is that I don't know why this has to be a Switch exclusive. Because I watched that gameplay reveal when they finally brought Bayo back onto the scene at the end of last year, and I was like, this looks kind of muddy and uncomfortable in a way that reminded me of No More Heroes 3, in a way that reminded me of Deadly Premonition 2, in a way that reminded me of all these kind of cool niche Japanese titles from very creative individuals who have been like fucking forced to put their title on a mobile device, in the age of the PlayStation 5 and the Series X and God knows, 30 series graphics cards. And like, I mean, I'm not going to suggest this is like a Deadly Premonition 2 situation where you were skateboarding around that city at 7 frames a second, but there was still a muddiness to it for such a free-flowing, cool, stylish action game that bummed me out. But I'm still curious to see what they can pull off.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Dead Space 4 is coming out Q4 of this year, which is, I think, one of the most exciting kind of like remake prospects for a long time. But will it come out in Q4? That's such an open target at this point.
They only announced it like the middle to end of last year. So I don't see how.
You've got to say like ground up remake, so there's a lot less legwork to do, but at the same time there's still a shitload to do. And like you say, it hasn't been talked about for very long. So I think it's all to play for at this point.
And
I've got no idea.
The biggest kind of like red flag is when there's a difference between saying like they expect it to come out in 2022, and there's a difference when they say, oh yeah, it'll come out in Q4. Usually when I hear Q4, that means 2023.
Right.
Yeah. No, me too. It's either that they don't want to say holiday because they want to like keep their cards close to their chest, or it means it's coming out the next year.
Yeah,
it's one of those two things for me.
Yeah, in fact, if they had said holiday, I'd probably be more forgiving with my assumption there.
Yeah,
it just seems a little bit more definitive. But by saying Q4, it's just like, fucking Q4, whatever. Like grab a burger, have a milkshake. Maybe it'll come out in Q4. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I'm still hyped for it though. Again, like
it's Dead Space. It's gonna. I think it's gonna be. Yeah, insanely hyped. Like when they actually do a proper date and they actually sort of like talk about it at length, it's going to be incredible.
And I think the tech you can get in with it now with the technology, like could be.
Oh yeah, totally.
With the fucking like the opportunities there.
Between this and Splinter Cell, I'd say stock in third-person action games that make good use of light is way up. So
that's so
I'm
true.
excited.
Yeah, to get some ray tracing on the little energy thing on his back as he's walking around.
Yeah, big time.
Be lovely. Also terrifying. Just like
yeah. That's one part of it I'm not looking forward to, is having my poo come out of my butthole.
Mid fight. Oh no.
They should release
they call it a necro shot.
A necro shot. They should release it for Halloween. That would be like really good timing.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be very cool. I don't want to wait that long for it, but this, like you said, they're saying end of the year. It's probably going to be 2023 at this rate anyway,
buddy.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Q4 of 2023.
Hollow Knight Silk Song is also an unknown title for Hollow Knight Silk Song is also an unknown title. What?
I've never heard of it.
Why are you doing this to me?
That doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. It's vaporware, Jonesy.
It's not vaporware. It's coming out this year.
No, it's a myth. It's a myth.
Outrageous.
You're confused.
And I'm playing Hollow Knight at the moment, so I'm excited for more of this coming out.
Jesus
Although I haven't played this week.
Yeah, fair.
I think that means you've fallen off it in gamer terms.
In Jonesy terms.
It's only been a week. Come on, give me a break.
What was the last time you didn't play a game for more than a week and then came back to it? I think that pause is it speaks volumes.
Maybe.
But you know what? I'm happy for Hollow Knight fans when this game eventually comes out because I'm sure they'll love it.
Yeah.
If/when this game eventually comes out.
It is just kind of crazy though, dude. Like we've seen stuff from this game. We've seen trailers from this game and then just kind of like radio silence and there's those memes that come out like every time there's an award show or a state of play or something and it's like, oh, well, let's put on the fucking clown makeup again while we wait to see if we see any mention of Silk Song. Like, it is kind of mad.
Yeah.
But, okay, hold on though, because this is not like a Starfield or something like that, or even like an Elden Ring up until we actually knew that the game was coming out.
Dude, but before Elden Ring kind of came out, it was like Elden Ring and Silk Song. That's how they kind of fucking graded it. Honestly.
But this is a little plinky game that you can play on your Switch. This is going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it's a plinky game that was announced 3 years ago and is a sequel to a plinky game that came out 5 years ago.
It takes a while to draw plinky games. They have to sit there and they have to get a pencil and you have to draw the lines and then you have to put them on a computer. Plinky takes a while. It's not vaporware. It just takes a little while.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's performance anxiety, fellas. I think they can't get it up. If you think to yourself like how well regarded Hollow Knight is in the communities, and it's almost like how do you follow up with that? And they thought they had it, but I think maybe they got to a point where they think, well, we haven't done enough, or we're not living up to the name, or whatever it is.
I know it wasn't a sequel, Chris, but could you foresee a below style situation where eventually they're just like, okay, this game has to come out, here it is, love it or hate it?
I don't know, man. It's so hard to tell because obviously, Studio Cherry? They fucking they are
Team Cherry.
They are Hollow Knight. Like, if that's what you do, you don't necessarily say just put out the next one and just move on. Like, that's what you built on. That's your foundation. Like, I don't know.
I guess so. Yeah.
I hope we hear something about Silk Song. I really enjoyed Hollow Knight. I think they did a really good job, especially with the DLCs and all that stuff. But yeah, man, like, I don't know. It might be too hard something to follow up on.
Maybe.
Well, hopefully it won't be, and hopefully it will come out this year. It's still unknown. We don't know when it's coming out. We haven't even got a date for it at this point. But from one little plinky game to another that we also don't know the date for is Little Devil Inside, which is something that a weird one for me, but I've been looking forward to playing since I first saw the trailer for this. I think it looks really cool. But hopefully this will come out this year, but we haven't got a date for it yet either. I think, was it Chris? You were saying you've kind of fallen off this a bit since the first time you saw it. Was it?
In a way, I still think it looks cool, but I mean, what's like the third trailer we've got from it? I'm still just as confused, I guess.
Some of the last gameplay trailer was weird, and we saw some strange kind of like traversal stuff and how the camera sort of pulls out, and you get it was a bit more bizarre than maybe I think we thought it would be when we first saw it.
That particular trailer was kind of rough around the edges from maybe from like a technical perspective of like a video editor looking at a fucking video.
Right.
Like maybe I was just too much in that mode, but yeah, just there was some rough edges, but I don't know, like it could properly be a unique little kind of like gem, but like so much on this fucking list, like who fucking knows? I'm getting angry now. I don't know why. It's kind of like, I guess I'm tired, and when I'm tired, I get cranky.
If I had to predict, I'd say Little Devil Inside is a game that it will come out. I say I want to play it. Chris, you're saying you can't. You're not that sure. Neither of us will play it. Jamie will play it, and then he'll come along and it'll be 3 weeks after it came out. He would have finished it, and he'll go, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, I liked it. All right.
Yeah, I can see that happening as well.
Cool narrative. Enjoyed it. Nice style. Yeah, played it.
I do like the style. That's the most appealingly about it so far.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. I just want to know what is the gameplay loop of that game?
Yeah, no, you're a bang on. We do need to know more about that.
It's funny how many times we've said that in the last hour.
Yeah, to see like 2 hours of play would be great. Like that, you need to just see someone just playing it and be like, okay, I get what this is going to be. Something that I think we know, we can imagine more like what it's going to actually be like when we got our hands on it, but we're also going to say we're going to play it together and we're not going to, is Redfall, which is coming in Q3 apparently.
I'll tell you now, I'm not going to play it with you fellas. Fuck it.
Right,
I'm drawing a line in the sand here.
Am I right in saying it's a 4-player co-op, like kind of PvE kills?
Yeah, I don't know explicitly if there's 4-player, but it's a co-op kind of.